This is BBC Two. Well, bad weather has caused the cancellation of this afternoon's racing at Chepstow. However, the outlook is brighter in Ireland, so we can now bring you the meet from Leopardstown, introduced by Julian Wilson.
Hello, welcome. Sadly, for the third year in succession, we've lost the Coral Welsh National because of bad weather. So instead of being out in the chilly December sunshine, here we are in a warm studio, but with a direct line to Leopardstown for 4 races from the second day of their hugely successful Christmas fixture. And thanks to the good offices of our colleague in Irish television service, well, we're in for a terrific afternoon. Ireland happily frost and snow free. As you can see, we've got some genuine top-class racing for you to enjoy. Well, this is the full catalogue of disaster on day 2 of the holiday programme after no fewer than 9 abandonments yesterday. These are the 4 meetings off today. Our meeting at Chepstow, of course. Kempton was lost to frost early this morning. Wetherby likewise for the second day running, a disaster for them. And Leicester, well, that was also put off yesterday. And already tomorrow we've lost 2 important meetings. The big meeting at Newbury has been abandoned because of frost. Folkestone is also off. They're inspecting at Huntingdon at 3 o'clock today, but that for me is a 1,000 to 1 shot. Newcastle, well, they're very hopeful of racing with good to soft ground, and Wetherby, the all-weather course, they say that they've got no problems. That should have been, though, the all-weather course at Wolverhampton, of course. Well, quite apart from the financial implications for the racing and bedding industries, it's a terrible disappointment for all the people who work in stables, who look forward to the holiday, got their horses ready, and despite having ridden out in sub-freezing temperatures, find they can't take their horses to the races. Joining me in the studio is someone with a professional involvement with a racing stable, that of Nigel Twiston-Davis. It is, of course, Peter Scudamore. Peter, how much of a loss is it to stables and in particular the lads when racing's put off like this?
I think for the trainers and the lads, the hardest bit is the uncertainty of it. You're preparing your horse, you're getting things ready, yet you're not quite sure whether things are going well. From a financial point of view, it is a big loss, to the betting industry when at a time when owners need more prize money, and also it is very difficult for trainers when you're actually planning to run a lot of horses over the Boxing Day period because owners are available to come and watch their horses. It is very, very difficult.
And what about the jockeys? Because they've been starving themselves over the Christmas period, presumably.
I think that, again, it's the uncertainty. You're only half starving because in the back of your mind you want to enjoy yourself and just let yourself down a little bit, but also you're worried that, in case they suddenly have a dramatic thaw and you're suddenly left 2 or 3 pound heavy. So it can be a very hard time for them, especially with the switch of meetings. You can be prepared to go to one meeting and suddenly you're going to have to drive off to Kempton or somewhere different.
And when the weather's as cold as this, and it's been freezing, well, certainly in the east of England, for 6 nights on a row now, how do you keep the horses fit?
Well, we have the all-weather gallops. A lot of people now have indoor walks and indoor trots. Usually the horses should be fairly fit by now. It's the horses that have had any hold-ups that you're struggling with, that have had legs, or you're just trying to bring back into form and trying to do a major piece of work. That can be difficult. But most of the all-weather gallops have been open.
Well, Peter, thank you. When racing resumes in the south of England remains to be seen, but of course they've got no problems over in Ireland. Traditionally a much more mellow climate there, thanks to the proximity of the Gulf Stream. So we can show you these 4 races from Leopardstown this afternoon, starting at 12:55 with the Cheltenham Gold Card Handicap Hurdle, a qualifier for the race that Great Easeby won at Cheltenham 12 months ago. At 1:25, the McCain handicap chase over 2¼ miles. Fascinating clash this between Clarence Davis and Mary Gale at a difference of £15. At 2 o'clock, the first choice Novice's Hurdle, which features Ireland's top novice hurdler, the former John Gosden trained Istabraq. And then at 2:35, the big one, the Paddy Power handicap chase, a field of 17, first prize of over £44,000. A really terrific card, and only one non-runner in the later races so far. In the fourth race at 2 o'clock, number 3, Lister Poor, doesn't go. Well, the big race of the day has attracted some strong anti-post betting in Ireland. These are the latest prices from the sponsor of the race. New Co is the firm favourite for the big race at 4-1. Then it's 6-1 Wild Hyde, one of 4 horses run by Arthur Moore. 7-1 Whale of a Night, that's another one. 9-1 Lord Singapore. 10-1 the ex-British trained Antonin. Also 10-1 Time for a Run and Beat the Second. 12-1 Feathered Gale. 14-1 Second Schedule Triferian, who's been well backed anti-post. Heist and Topical Tip. 20-1 Ballyha Lad. 20-1 also Love and Porter and Back Bar. 25-1 Dancing Vision. And 33-1 Nuaf. Well, thanks to some Herculean efforts behind the scenes, we're able to bring you a fascinating programme this afternoon. We'll be looking back at the racing at Ascot last Saturday, looking a little bit further back to Rough Quest's great win in the Martel Grand National, and looking even further back to perhaps the greatest steeplechasers that any of us have ever seen. But first, it's Ascot 6 days ago, and the Betterwear Cup, and a terrific effort by Unguided Missile, carrying 11 stone 11, trying to win the race for the second year in succession. We pick up the race at halfway. The commentator is Peter O'Sullivan.
All still standing with another circuit to complete in this Betterwear Cup. They swing right-handed. Got 1.5 miles to run now. Another 2 plain fences before the next ditch, and Strong Medicine by a couple of lengths from Unguided Missile, Badbury Star, Dexter Dove going up on the outside. Major Bell just in 5th now. Then comes Go Ballistic. This is number 11. Then Inch Kylock, Turning Tricks and Travado. Slight mistake there by Major Bell. Strong Medicine still the leader from Dexter Dove. Unguided Missile has lost a few places, is back in 5th now over the 12th, and a real brilliant jump there by the leader, Strong Medicine. Strong Medicine running down to the 3rd of the 4 ditches. Strong Medicine the leader at this 3rd ditch. Dexter Dove on his outside, Major Bell and Bradbury Star close. Another good jump there by the leader. Unguided Missile possibly being given a breather there by Richard Dunwoody. They're coming down now to the water. Strong Medicine, the leader. Major Bell on the inside. Dexter Dove, Unguided Missile goes back on the outer. Badbury Star comes next on the inner. And it's Strong Medicine from the grey Dexter Dove. Then Unguided Missiles moved into 3rd, having dropped back at one stage to 5th. Probably Richard Dunwoody giving him a breather. On the inside is Major Bell. Then comes Go Ballistic, who's travelling well just in behind the lead. Badbury Star has lost a place or 2. Turning Tricks is trying to get on terms with them. 6 from home. Strong Medicine from Dexter Dove, and Unguided Missile towards the right of the picture as we see them. Major Bell just in behind him. Go Ballistic is still making relentless progress. 5 out. Strong Medicine made a slight mistake there. Badbury Star has gone at that one. Coming down to the 4th from home now, the final ditch. Strong Medicine towards the left of the picture. And Dexter Dove, who just landed in the lead with Unguided Missile, and it's Unguided Missile who's just taken it up now, but here comes the local course specialist, Go Ballistic, towards the right of the picture. Unguided Missile, 3 out from Go Ballistic, these 2, then Major Bell, then comes Strong Medicine, then Dexter Dove, and it's Go Ballistic and Unguided Missile. These 2 now, they've got 2 left to jump now in the Betterwear Cup, and it's last year's winner on the far side as we see them. Unguided Missile on the near side is Go Ballistic, back in 3rd is Major Bell. Go Ballistic towards the right, travelling very sweetly, comes to the second last, lands just in the lead from Unguided Missile. It's Go Ballistic towards the right of the picture. Under Tony McCoy on the far side, it's Richard Dunwoody on Unguided Missile. These 2 now, Go Ballistic on the near side, Unguided Missile on the far side, coming down to the final fence in the Betterwear. Go Ballistic and Unguided Missile, Go Ballistic on the near side. line. Unguided Missile fighting back over on the far side as they race up towards the line. It's Go Ballistic from Unguided Missile, and Go Ballistic's going to win it at the line. Go Ballistic is the winner. Unguided Missile is second, and Major Bell is third. Andrew Cohen, the chairman of Betterwear, with his wife Wendy, to present this lovely trophy for the Betterwear Cup to the winning owner of Go Ballistic, Mrs. Brown Lockhart. A challenge trophy, and Mrs. Lockhart holds that for 12 months and retains the replica as well after that fine victory of Go Ballistic over last year's winner, Unguided Missile.
Well, Tony, congratulations, terrific ride, but it just took a couple of fences to get used to him.
Thank you, yeah. Second down the hill, he's just gotten a little bit tight and just caught the top a little bit. He was pretty much out in his nose. And then he done it again down in Swimley Bottom. But later on, the quicker we went and the further we got, the better. The more used to him I was getting, and I mean, he's done it well. He's travelled. He's a good horse.
It was a great race from turning in, and you've come to join Richard, and from then on it was a battle royal.
Yeah, I didn't want him beating me anyway, but I was travelling well, and I thought it's 11-10 against 10 stone, but my fellow would idle in front, and I didn't want to be there too long. I've actually got a little bit tight to the last, but he's kept going, you know. Maybe the way it told us, but it was a good race, good run.
The toughest thing for you must have been doing 10 stone, was it?
Yeah, hard work. I wouldn't be a natural 10 stone jockey, as they say, but it's well worth it when you win races like that.
Well, it's a great way to end the year, which has been a very special year for you.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I've had lots of support. I think I've rode winners for practically everyone. Martin Pipe, Paul Nichols, Toby Walden, David Nicholson, Kevin Bailey. I've been around most of them. So hopefully they'll keep putting me up.
I think they may. Tony McCoy, what an amazing achievement. The last 2 years is just astonishing what he's achieved. Right, now on to our first race at Leopardstown. It's the Cheltenham Gold Card Qualifier, and there are no fewer than 15 runners. And here they are, headed by number 1, Betterwear, ridden by Richard Dunwoody for Mr. Michael Tabor. Number 2 is Padish Pan, ridden by Tommy Tracy. 3 is Istabraq, ridden by Ray Hogan, claiming 7. Number 4, Mr. Bowl, ridden by Kevin O'Brien. 5, wearing blinkers for the first time, is Tell the Nipper, ridden by Shane Broderick. 6 is Miltonfield, Conrad Dwyer. 7, who won yesterday, Amble Speedy, ridden by Francis Woods. 8 is Casey Jane, David Casey. 9, Total Confusion, Paul Carberry over from England. 10 is Vicar Street, Charlie Swan. 11, Dark Swan, Richard Hughes, that one. 12 is Colin Leader, ridden by Shay Barry. 13, Liscahill Fort, ridden by Terry Mitchell. 14 is Sir John, John Butler, claiming £5. And 15, Young Mrs. Kelly, James Jones. And changes in the going on the hurdle course now is yielding. On the steeplechase course, it's good to yielding. And this is how they bet. I should tell you a change of jockey on number 13 there, Liscahill Fort. The new jockey is Brian Bowens, replacing Terry Mitchell. Now the betting. And a gamble on Miltonfield, who's shown terrific form on the flat this season, but a little while since he showed form over hurdles. He's favoured at 7-2. Then it's 5-1 Tell the Nipper and Amble Speedy, 7-1 Easy to Back Vicar Street, 8-1 Casey Jane, 10-1 Sir John and Total Confusion, and Colin Leader and Young Mrs. Kelly, 12-1 Betterwear and Padish Pan and Liscahill Fort, 16-1 Istabraq, 25-1 Dark Swan, and 33-1 Mr. Bowl. And now we go straight to Leopardstown to join our host there with all the latest news, Robert Hall.
Thank you, Julian. You're all very welcome to Leopardstown. We're sorry for your problems across the way. We were looking forward to tune into the Welsh National. but it's not to be. Really, the National Hunt season came to life yesterday with the tremendous performance by Denoli in the Denny's Go Medal chase, and I can warn you to take him seriously from now on in. We've got great racing today. We're all looking forward to Claire Davis's performance in Istabraq. Claire Davis, the reigning 2-mile champion. Istabraq, our leading novice so far. Hopefully, through the afternoon, we'll all learn something. Great racing here again today, the second day of our 4-day festival. And as Julian said, no problems with the weather or the ground. It's a really fine day here in Dublin, and the ground about good to yielding. So on to our first race, 15 runners. They've been listed to you by Julian. They're on the way to the post, some of them looking at the first flight of hurdles here, and the interesting runners, Milton Field, who's a 7-2 chance, a Cesarewitch winner, Amble Speedy also, who was a winner here over fences yesterday. Ted, we're looking at Milton Field here. He hasn't run over hurdles for a while, not since Killarney in May, but there's no doubting that if the hurdles aren't a problem, and there's no reason why they should be, he's got the pace over this distance, 3 miles.
He's a very much improved horse, John Mulhern. He's a half-brother to Flashing Steel, who won an Irish National. He's by Little Wolf, a great stayer in England, so there's no reason why 3 miles would be no problem to him. He likes to come from off the pace. He skated in the Cesar, which was very, very impressive. Was 4th in the Leopardstown November handicap at Theatre World. I wouldn't worry about his run over hurdles. I think he's thrown in here in comparison to what you've seen him on the flat. He's handicapped on some of his moderate runs last year. I think he's a very much improved horse. John said he's a different type of horse to train now. He likes to just arrive fresh, and since he's got the key to him, there's no stopping where this horse might go. I would imagine he wouldn't like him to win too far, if that's the word, because he'd be hoping maybe to go for the gold card hurdle at Cheltenham. And judging by the way the English handicapper in the past has been most unkind to our horses in handicaps in England, this fella, the fact that he's favourite means that all systems go today. I think he'll be very difficult to beat. Top weight is Betterwear, who hasn't shown any semblance of the form he showed early on as a 4-year-old when he was tipped as a Daily Express horse after being very impressive in a maiden at Gordon. Things didn't go right for him. There he is in the famous Tabor colours. But he hasn't shown anything like that sort of form, and you'd have to wait. If you're going to punt on him, you'd definitely like to see him do something more on the track than what he'd been doing in the past. He fell in a race won by Kawa at Punchestown. He was a long ways behind Mayesta here, and he ran all right behind Derry Mile at Punchestown back in February, but he's hit and miss a bit in between. But he might be on his way back. 14 De Grey is Sir John, one of Aiden O'Brien's runners. There we have 5. Tell the Nipper, Shane Broderick on board from Michael Horrigan. A good run behind Pitmare Lodge at Navan last week. Definitely one with a squeak. Michael's horses are jumping out of their skin. He the winner at Limerick yesterday, and one that ran well in the first here as well today. 3 is Old Shankarak, great servant to Frank Berry, winner of an amateur race in Galway, winner of plenty of big handicaps. This is the only qualifier here in Ireland for the Cheltenham Gold Card Handicap Hurl. So a lot of these horses, even that they mightn't be concert pitched today, have to run in order to be qualified to run in Cheltenham. I think it's about the one race we have a very bad record in at Cheltenham, is the Gold Card Hurl. Correct me if we even won it. Ample Speedy, typical of a horse that has to run here today. He won here yesterday and did it nicely, and it's not like Arthur Moore to pull him out back-to-back days, but he has his chance, and the fact that he has to, as I said, run to get qualified for Cheltenham anyway. If yesterday's win didn't take too much out of him, he's won with a big chance as well. He loved the trip, and he won well yesterday. Only a novice, won a handicap nicely. Tony Sweeney down in the ring. Is there any serious money for anything besides Milton Field?
No, Milton Field is still top of the market here, having varied between 3-1 and 7-2. They go 5-1 then Amble Speedy, and also 5-1 Tell the Nipper, and there was a bit of move for Tell the Nipper, having touched 11-2. Vicar Street is easy from 6s out to 7s, and they go 8-1 each. Casey, Jane and Total Confusion, but the favourite is Milton Field.
On the way towards the first of the 12 flights, and Sir John goes along in front of Total Confusion in second, and then Liscahill fourth, and they're followed 3 lengths back in the field by Dark Swan as they run down the far side. Very ordinary early pace with Sir John in front. Total Confusion towards the right of the picture in second. Second grey on the left is Liscahill fourth, and they're followed by Dark Swan. Then towards the inside of Dark Swan, and as they run towards the second is Young Mrs. Kelly, followed by Vicar Street and Tell the Nipper next, ahead of Casey Jane and Colin Leader. Coming up towards the second flight now, and Sir John has stretched his lead to about 7 lengths. Liscahill fourth in second. So John the leader, over and clear of Liscahill fourth, and third place is Total Confusion, 2 lengths away Vicar Street. Then Dark Swan with young Mrs. Kelly, a gap down of 3 lengths to Tell the Nipper. And as they near the end of the back straight, this is flight number 3. And Sir John with a clear lead over Liscahill fourth and second. Total Confusion jumps at third, then Vicar Street and young Mrs. Kelly, and they're followed on the outside by Dark Swan, then Tell the Nipper, and behind Tell the Nipper is Casey Jane. As they start the turn out of the back straight for the first time, Sir John in the lead. 6 to 7 lengths clear of Liscahill fourth and second, then a 4-length break to Total Confusion. Sir John and John Butler in the lead, running towards the fourth from Liscahill fourth and second, then Vicar Street Charlie Swan 3. Total Confusion on the inside of Dark Swan, and they're followed by Tell the Nipper with Colin Leader as they come to flight number 4. So John in the lead, jumps at 5 lengths clear of Liscahill fourth, Vicar Street in third, and then Total Confusion on the inside as they run the turn into the straight. Sir John from Liscahill fourth. Sir John, runner-up in his last 2 starts. One of Aiden O'Brien's runners in the race, leading from the second grey, Liscahill fourth, and they're followed in third place by Total Confusion. Then towards the outside, Vicar Street with Dark Swan and the nose band. Just behind these, young Mrs. Kelly. Rider's lost his cap. Then comes Tell the Nipper in the blinkers, followed by Casey Jane. And they're followed by Colin Leader, and behind Colin Leader is Ballawar with Shankarak, Milton Field towards the back with Mr. Bowl and Amble Speedy, yesterday's handicap chase winner, and bringing up the rear is Paddish Pan. Coming up now towards the 6th, Sir John with a reduced advantage is Cahill fourth and second, then Vicar Street on the outside of Dark Swan. Total Confusion on the inner, and the blinker Tell the Nipper, and they're followed by Casey Jane. Coming up to the halfway point now, and the 2 greys left of the picture. Sir John on the right, Liscahill fourth. Back in third place is Total Confusion, followed by Dark Swan, Vicar Street on the outside, then Tell the Nipper with young Mrs. Kelly and Colin Leader. Sir John narrowly from Liscahill fourth. Young Mrs. Kelly and Total Confusion lead the main group, followed by Dark Swan in the pink colours, then Vicar Street. They're followed on the inside by Colin Leader with Casey Jane, and behind these Ballawar with Milton Field. As they turn now towards the far side of the course, back where they started from, and Liscahill fourth and Sir John matching strides, a good 8 lengths clear of young Mrs. Kelly and Total Confusion, then Dark Swan, Tell the Nipper is next, then Colin Leader, Vicar Street. Behind Vicar Street is Casey Jane, and then Shankarak, and after Shankarak is Milton Field, and then Ballawar, Amble Speedy, Mr. Bowl, and Paddish Pan. First down the far side, Liscahill fourth and Sir John. The pack beginning to close now, led by young Mrs. Kelly, Dark Swan on the outside, Total Confusion towards the right of the picture. 4 hurls left to jump, Liscahill fourth, Sir John. They're followed in third place by Dark Swan. 4 to jump as they cross the roadway. Liscahill fourth from Sir John, then young Mrs. Kelly, and they're followed by Dark Swan, Tell the Nipper, Total Confusion being niggled along on the inside. 3 to jump now, Liscahill fourth the leader from Sir John, young Mrs. Kelly, then Total Confusion and Dark Swan, Tell the Nipper just behind them, then Casey Jane improving with Colin Leader. Milton Field is next, beginning a forward move, then Amble Speedy, and they're followed by Vicar Street and Paddish Pan, Shankarak and Ballawar, and Mr. Bowl brings up the rear. Turning now off the back, a long run to the second last, and Liscahill fourth and Sir John from Tell the Nipper on the outside of young Mrs. Kelly, Dark Swan just behind them, then Total Confusion. Ballawar is made ground too as they run around now towards the second last, and it's Liscahill fourth on the inside of Tell the Nipper. And the pair of them from Sir John, Milton Field the favourite coming there on the outside as they come to the second last now. The blinker Tell the Nipper, Milton Field white face on the outside, the grey Sir John between them. Tell the Nipper leads from Sir John, Milton Field. Casey Jane tracks them, then Colin Leader, Liscahill fourth under pressure, then Amble Speedy, and as they straighten up with 1 to jump, it's Tell the Nipper and Shane Broderick in the lead. being followed in second by Colin Leader, who's gone through on the inner Milton Field, poised on the outside, then Sir John and Casey Jane and Amble Speedy racing towards the final flight now, and it's Colin Leader in the centre. Near side is Milton Field, the inside Tell the Nipper, a break then to Casey Jane in fourth. At the final flight it's Colin Leader and Milton Field on the near side from Tell the Nipper, who can't go with them, and inside the last 150 yards Milton Field on the stand side from Colin Leader. Milton Field cheekily ridden by Conor O'Dwyer going up to the line. Milton Field wins it cosily from Colin Leader second, and they're clear of a three-way battle for third involving Tell the Nipper, Casey Jane, then Amble Speedy. They're clear of Paddish Pan, then Liscattle fourth, young Mrs. Kelly and Sir John, and behind Sir John came Dark Swan, then Vicar Street, Total Confusion, Ballawar, Shankarak, and trailing in at the tail of the field, Mr. Bowl. So a confident ride from Conor O'Dwyer. Milton Field in the colours of JC Savage, trained by John Mulhern, the winner of this Cheltenham Gold Card Handicap Hurl qualifier.
Well, that was mission accomplished, and as the boys said beforehand, the message was not to win too far. He's loomed up on the outside here, the favourite, going very, very comfortably after Tell the Nipper blinkered for the first time, led at the second last with the white colours. The two grey horses now beating a backward retreat, Sir John and Liscattle fourth. They'd run well enough, and young Mrs. Kelly, she ran a decent race as well, but turning in, the horse with the noseband, Colin Leader, cruises through and looks the danger from this angle to Tell the Nipper, but meanwhile on the outside Conor O'Dwyer was riding the most confident race on Milton Field, and Skew never really looked like getting beat.
No, as you say, he did ride a very confident race. Leopardstown is a funny track, although it only looks a short run up the straight here. There's a pull all the way from the bend there, and you've got to be careful. You see so often the results change after the last year, and Conor, in fact, I suppose, didn't go on and win as far as you half expect here. He is absolutely cantering on the outside in the red colours with the sheepskin noseband. Just comes in and jumps the hurdle nicely here. The second horse, Colin Leader, runs on really well and battles all the way to the line. But just here, Conor shakes Milton Field up. But he didn't really go away and sprint clear, but once he's changed his hands, he's got him back on the bridle, he kept galloping all the way to the line. He's bred as a stare, Irish Cesarewitch winner, so you're not going to expect him to really quicken away like Nijinsky, but he's done it nicely, and one to watch for the final at Cheltenham in the springtime.
Well, as you say, it's a qualifier for a race that's 2.5 months away. Obviously, brilliant planning there by John Mulhern, who's a great man, of course, the son-in-law of Charlie Hockey, and he loves to have runners at Cheltenham. But it must be difficult to programme a horse for a race that's so far ahead. It is, because it is a handicap when you get to Cheltenham, so you don't want them too high in the handicap, and you don't want them so low in the handicap that they're not in the handicap. So it is very difficult. You're never quite sure what's going to be at the top of the handicap. You've got the 3-mile stayers hurdle, so obviously the top of horses are going to go into that, and this year it doesn't look a terribly competitive event, so you could see a substandard gold card race this year, whereas some of the handicappers might go and take their chance in the conditions race. Your stable got anything lined up for it?
Well, we had 4 left in at Wincanton yesterday. The ideal situation in these gold card races is to find one that is abandoned, and then you're automatically qualified without actually showing your hand. Yes, we've got 3 or 4 in it. It's a great contest, I think, in that Ted complaining then they've only got the one qualifier in Ireland, which is a bit disappointing for them, but really it builds up to Cheltenham all the time, and as you say, everybody's trying to get the horses nicely handicapped for it, without cheating, of course.
But we should explain that in fact you qualify for the race just through having been declared or running in a qualifier rather than having won it.
That is correct, and as I say, if you're declared in a qualifier and it happens to be abandoned, then you're qualified.
Good. Well, I think we may have seen one possible Cheltenham winner today, because Milton Field, well, he really did win with his head in his chest, even though he didn't find too much off the bridle of the Skews there. But this is a horse who won 3 times on the flat this year, including the Irish Cesarewitch, as you heard, and he could be well ahead of the handicapper. Right, well, there's been racing in Scotland and on the all-weather track over the last hour, and Musselburgh is the one jumping course in the British Isles which is on, and they started at 12:35, and the first race there was won by the favourite, number 1 Rossell, the 9-4 favourite. Second, number 5 Honey's Choice at 4-1, and third was number 8 Noir Esprit, at 25 to 1. And the all-weather meeting on the flat at Southall, the 12.15 there, won by number 6, Cat's Bottom, at 6 to 1. Second was number 7, Indiara, at 4 to 1. And third, number 3, In Good Faith, at 14 to 1. The favourite was number 2, at 11 to 4. And the second race at Southall, the 12.45 there, another favourite, number 2, JO2, won at 7 to 4. Second, number 7, Fame, at 8 to 1. And third, number 4, Magic Fizz, at 9 to 1. Well, the race we just saw was the second race of the day at Leopardstown. This was the result of the first, the Total Count Hurdle, and that was won by an outsider, Fern Fields, running for the first time and trained by Kevin Prendergast. That won at 14 to 1. Second was the 3 to 1 favourite, number 2, Cento, and third, number 7, Loch Slania, at 6 to 1. Non-runners there, numbers 1, 5 and 16. And now the starting price on the race that we've just seen. Successful favourite here, the winner, number 6, Milton Field. The 3 to 1 favourite, second, number 12, Colin Leader, at 11 to 1. And running on third, number 8, Casey Jane, at 8 to 1. Well, this Boxing Day is the 30th anniversary of the very last appearance on a racecourse of the best steeplechaser that I think any of us ever saw. It was on Boxing Day 1966 that the great Arkle came to Kempton, was beaten by Dormant and came back and was found to have broken a pedal bone. Well, he was right at the height of his powers that year, and earlier on in the year, Peter Bromley had been to Kilsallaghan, County Dublin, to take a look at this great horse.
Fashion, and Arkle over the lad, Fight the Fashion is second and Splash is third. They've got just over a furlong to run, and it's Arkle the leader. And it's Arkle out in front, and Pat Tap pushing him along a bit. Fight the Fashion trying to get to him again. She's coming strongly on the outside, and Pat Tap is really at Arkle now. They've got less than a furlong to run, and Arkle is holding on, but Fight the Fashion is coming after him. He's 50 yards to run. It's Arkle just going to hold on, or is he? Fight the Fashion coming after him, and passing the post. It's Arkle by just there, by about a half a length or so. He's given the 3 stone, but what a struggle, and what an ovation from the crowd.
A lion on the racecourse, but a lamb in the stable. That sums up the character of this amazing horse, Arkle, who's done so much for steeplechasing. He's trained in Ireland's relaxed countryside, a few miles outside Dublin, where Tom Draper's had charge of top-class chasers for over 30 years. Draper's a genius with chasers. Modestly, he says, some men are born great, some acquire greatness, others, like himself, have great horses thrust upon them. Before Arkle, there was Fortria and Royal Approach and Prince Regent. But surely Arkle is the greatest. This 9-year-old gelding by Archive out of Bright Cherry is now at the peak of his career. Arkle's a legend in his own lifetime. He's run in 29 races and won 23 of them. He's broken records wherever he's run. A horse that has won for his owner and Duchess of Westminster over £63,000 in stakes. 2 Cheltenham Gold Cups, an Irish Grand National, 3 Leopardstown chases, 2 Hennessy Gold Cups, a King George VI chase, a Whitbread and a Gallagher Gold Cup. Arkle has everything. Brilliant jumping ability, stamina, courage, and that ruthless acceleration that has his opponents gasping for breath. Small wonder he's the idol of Ireland.
It's a great horse.
Yes.
Great horse. He's a pet of a horse, and everybody seems to like him, you know. We always like, when he'd be walking on the field, he'd look around to say good morning to you.
And a great man rides him.
Yes.
You wouldn't get a better. I don't think anybody else should ride him as well as Pat Tap.
Yes.
Well, he's being talked about every day, and they all sort of try to bet on him. No luck, because he's no good for betting.
He's a national hero, in fact. They all own him. Nobody is. I mean, Mr. Draper, the Duchess of Westminster, nobody owns him. Everybody. He's communal property.
It's always lovely.
Yes.
Yeah.
You take a great
he nearly got beat in Leopardstown.
Really?
Yes, we're quite the fashions.
Tell us what the conversation's like in the evening here in the pubs.
Oh, they're all, no, there's only Arkle.
Yes.
Arkle, that's all. Arkle the whole way.
Draper trained 3 generations of Arkle's family. He must have been keen to get Arkle. Did he decide to buy Arkle at the sales for the Duchess of Westminster at any price?
No, I didn't decide that at all. I sent her over and I said, go over there and look at him. And if you like him, buy him. And don't blame me if he doesn't get 3 miles for you, because his mother didn't.
What about his temperament?
His temperament is perfect. It's more perfect than flying bulls.
Yes.
He would bite you or kick you, but Arkle will allow all the children to ride him and to give him sugar.
Do you think that his owner and Duchess of Westminster will ever let him run in a Grand National? Is this ever likely to happen?
I don't think it is, because she's always terrified of loose horses knocking him down, hurting him.
But he's not afraid of loose cattle at home. Mrs. Draper organizes a roundup to clear the gallops. Arkle, with his stable companion Flying Bolt sent along to give him a hand, does the job well. Paddy Woods and Liam McLaughlin, their regular partners, become cowboys for a moment before morning exercise. What about your training methods, sir?
I have none.
Have you got a...
I got no education.
Have you got a rule do you stick to?
Well, maybe I have. I never galloped them. I never tried them.
Yes.
I guess at them. And none of my patrons bet, so you don't have to be galloping.
What about schooling them? Do you school them?
Oh, I school them plenty.
Over fences as young horses?
Yeah, well, smaller ones first. And I always like to jump them over the small fences before they know how to gallop.
The morning work is over. Just a couple of sharp canters. But Arkle's game for more. However, the string heads for home, past the blacksmith's forge, where Jim Flanagan is working on one of Arkle's shoes. This craftsman calls on all his 30 years' experience when shoeing the most valuable chaser in the world. In those 30 years, he's looked after 4 generations of Arkle's family, including Arkle's mother, Bright Cherry, now 23 years old and living only just up the road from the son that's brought her fame. Back in his box after exercise, Arkle prepares for his daily ritual. From the gallops, too, comes Mrs. Betty Draper. What's it like being not just a trainer's wife, but Arkle's trainer's wife?
It's absolutely marvellous to have anything to do with a thing like this. But he has, of course, an enormous public. And he has a large mail every day that have to be answered. And any amount of people asking for hairs out of his tail. And shoes, he'd need to be a centipede to satisfy the demand for shoes. And then photographs, of course, they all want that. And he quite often gets a letter addressed Arkle, Ireland. But it always comes. I mean, there's no difficulty about that. In fact, I often tell people, strangers who are coming to see us, they needn't ask for the address, simply ask the way to Arkle, and they'll all arrive here. Everybody seems to know where he lives. And then on Sundays, the great thing of the local parents in, well, the parents from people from Dublin, is to bring their children down to see Arkle. So much so that we've had to more or less make visiting hours like a hospital because they kept coming all hours of the day, and neither the horse nor the head man had any rest. So now it's 4 o'clock visiting hours.
But on the racecourse, it's strictly business. Arkle commands your attention as he parades. The proud way that he carries that fine head, his inquisitive air, his obvious intelligence stand out. Arkle's partner on all these great occasions is Ireland's top jockey, Pat Tapp.
Well, I've got great confidence in him, and like, he gets me out of any trouble that I get into in a race, and he can accelerate at the finish and quicker than any other horse.
Is he an easy horse to ride?
Oh, he's really an easy horse to ride. Like, he goes a very good gallop, and if the horse are going fast enough, he settles down behind, and if they're not, well, he likes to be in front himself.
At that stage in the race, when you say, right, go, tell me, from a rider's point of view, what exactly happens?
It's more or less just the same as if you were driving a Rolls Royce. When you put your foot in the accelerator, he leaves the rest.
His owner, the Duchess of Westminster, leads him into a hero's welcome after every race. The cheers are no longer from winning punters, but from people who love steeplechasing and who love and admire a horse who's done more for this sport than any other horse in this century.
Oh, they're all, no, there's only Arkle, that's all. Arkle the whole way.
Oh, what a wonderful story. Wonderful people. Of course, he never did run in the Grand National. The Duchess couldn't bear it. But, of course, he won everything else. Peter, did you ever see him?
No, I was never privileged enough to see him live, but Pat used to come and stay with my father when he was riding in England, and we always had sort of privileged information on him. I remember when he got beaten by Millhouse in the first Hennessy Gold Cup, he made a bad mistake at the ditch, and Pat came back and said, look, I would have won, apart from it was foggy and nobody saw it, and father said, don't be stupid, you know, that's Millhouse, probably the greatest steeplechaser of all time that's finished in front of you. So, no, I always felt a very special affinity with Arkle for that reason that Pat used to stay with us, yeah.
One of the great ones, no question. Well, Southall, racing at Southall today, Jason Weaver and Willie Ryan are two of the jockeys earning some holiday money there. It's a far cry from Ascot. We've had a wonderful year's racing at the Royal Meeting, and of course it came to an unbelievable climax with that unforgettable day at the end of September.
Hope Trump is not listening.
Wall Street and Frankie Dettori going to win the opener. Oh, it's a photo between Diffident and Lucayan Prince, but I think we'll find that Diffident got up on the line. But Mark of Esteem sprints, and Mark of Esteem on Frankie Dettori. He completes a fantastic treble. Frankie Mark of Esteem has won it from Bosworthshire. And now coming there fast is Decorated Hero under Frankie Dettori over on the far side. And Decorated Hero has come now to take it up from Russian Music and KB. It's going to be another for Frankie Dettori as they race up towards the line. Decorated Hero sprints away to win it from KB. He's done it again. It's a four-timer.
But faithfully and Frankie Dettori bidding for this fantastic five-timer, and he looks as if he's just going to do it. There are Bayers finishing very fast. Faithfully just holds a Bayer. Angel from Corsini, but it looks like 6 for Frankie Dettori as they run up to the line. Corsini is putting in a last effort, but Lock Angel holds on for the six-timer. Another roar from the crowd. Frankie Dettori's out in front. Fujiyama Crest and Frankie Dettori going for the 7-timer. Northern Fleet and Pat Edry in second place. Running on in third is Embryonic, Fujiyama Crest and Northern Fleet. It's a desperate finish as they run up to the line. Fujiyama Crest finding a bit more, and it's 7 for Frankie.
To all the BBC viewers, I'd like to say a special thank you very much for all these beautiful trophies you've been giving me throughout the last few months, especially on Sunday night, the BBC Awards. And I had a fantastic year, and I just wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Frankie Dettori, who flew off to Johannesburg last night to ride in 7 races, believe it or not, in Turffontein tomorrow. That's having worked really hard in the gym and in the swimming pool over the holiday weekend. And with ski, I suppose that's what makes a champion, to go to the gym, because after that awful fall in Hong Kong, of course, on Christmas Day.
That's right. They have to be I think they have to be fitter to ride on the flat than you do jumping, because jumping, at least you're getting a little bit of a breather at times when a horse is jumping. Flat racing, the 7 furlong races especially, are very, very hard work. As you say, it's his enthusiasm that makes the difference between him being a great jockey and an ordinary jockey. A trainer told me once one day, it's short heads wins races, and what he meant by that is it's that grand work you do, the preparation that you do in your fitness regime that makes the difference between winning and losing. And as you say, Frankie's been in the gym over that Christmas period, and that'll probably pay dividends when he's in South Africa.
Peter, thank you. We move on now to our second live race from Leopardstown. It's the McCain Handicap Chase. This is the field. They're headed by the 2-mile champion chaser Clarence Davis, ridden by Francis Woods. 2, at a difference of 15 pounds, is Merry Gale, ridden by Richard Dunwoody. 3 is 57 Channels, Charlie Swan. 4 is Jasu, Anthony Powell. And 5, Per 4, now ridden by John Butler. And the betting? Clarence Davis, an odds-on shot. Clarence Davis is 5 to 4 on, 5 to 4 on favourite. Then it's 5 to 4 against Merry Gale, so you've got a 2-horse market, but just bits for 57 Channels at 8 to 1, 14 to 1 Jasu, and 20 to 1 Per 4. Well, the key race here, undoubtedly the race at Punchestown 3 weeks ago, in which Imperial Call made his reappearance. We pick it up 5 from home. And here Clarence Davis, who's in 4th place here in the striped colours as they come to the 5th last here. Imperial Call takes it up from Merry Gale there. The horse who made a bad mistake there was Royal Mount Brown. But in 3rd place, Clarence Davis seemed to be going pretty well on the heels of the 2 leaders here. But he came unstuck at the 4th last fence, travelling nicely, but just meets it entirely on the wrong stride and pays the penalty. Down to the 4th last, the 2 leaders, Imperial Call and Merry Gale, and on their heels, Clarence Davis. Long run down to this fence, as you can see, half a mile from home at Punchestown, and this is where it went wrong for Clarence Davis. Bad fall, Skier.
Yes, it just shows the difficulty for trainers, especially for Arthur Moore training in Ireland. There isn't that many opportunities for Clarence Davis to run over 2 miles. He was running over a distance further than he wanted, and the form book says he really doesn't get much further than 2 miles. He was beaten at Aintree, and then came back and won at Punchestown last year, beaten over at Aintree over 2.5 miles, and came back and won at Punchestown over 2 miles.
Well, that left Imperial Call up front with Merry Gale, and Imperial Call here looked to be cruising home. He switches towards the stand side, Merry Gale struggling in the centre. You questioned this manoeuvre at the time, Skip.
A lot of the Irish jockeys come across to the outside here, but you just wonder how much ground you give away by doing that. But they obviously think it's much better ground, and you've got the rail to go against. But you've got photographers on this outside wing. You can see a lot of things that take a horse's eye off the fence. He was a little bit unfortunate, wasn't he? I mean, Conor O'Dwyer was quite hard on himself, saying...
Well, that's it. Merry Gale got caught in the run-in. We now go to Leopardstown Live and the commentary of Tony O'Hare.
Jasu share the lead as they run the turn into the straight and head towards the first fence. 57 Channels, Clare on Davis, pair 4, the back marker of the quintet as they come up towards the first, and Mary Gale in the lead by less than half a length to Jasoo, with the big noseband and the striped colours of Clare on Davis. 57 Channels is next. They're followed by pair 4, the back marker of the 5, as they come up now to pass the winning post for the first time. And Mary Gale, Richard Dunwoody, making it by just over 2 lengths to Jasoo and Anthony Powell in second. Then the top weight and favourite Clare on Davis, 3 under Francis Woods. Mary Gale from Jasoo as they go towards the second. 57 Channels and Clare on Davis race together. Pair 4 just out of picture last for the 5 runners as they run to fence number 2. Mary Gale, Jasoo on the left, black colours, yellow spots and cap. They're followed by Clare on Davis, lands third just ahead of 57 Channels, jumping a little slowly at the back, pair 4 as they head now towards the third. Mary Gale leads from Jasoo in second. Followed by 57 Channels, lands just ahead of Clare on Davis, and they're 6 to 7 lengths clear of pair 4, the back marker, as they go left-handed towards the back straight. Mary Gale the leader by over 3 lengths, Jasoo in second, tracked by Clare on Davis. Immediately behind him is 57 Channels in a break of over 6 lengths to pair 4 and John Butler at the tail of the field. Running now to the first of the 6 fences they meet down the far side. Fence number 4, Mary Gale with the lead of about 4 lengths. Jasoo in second, Clare on Davis 3, then 57 Channels. And back at the tail of the field is pair 4 as they near fence number 5. Mary Gale with the lead of over 4 lengths. Clare on Davis moves up alongside Jasoo. They're 3 lengths in front of 57 Channels, and 12-length gap then to pair 4 at the back. Mary Gale jumps it well. Jasoo lands just ahead of Clare on Davis. Just lost a little ground at that one. With 57 Channels next, and back at the tail of the field is pair 4 as they come to the first of the ditches. Mary Gale in the lead. About 5 lengths clear, jumps it well. Clare on Davis again out jumped by Jasoo over that one. A 3-length gap then to 57 Channels, and a long way back to pair 4. They have 5 fences to jump now in this McCain handicap chase, and Mary Gale the leader over from Clare on Davis, jumped that one a bit better, lands second. Jasoo in 3, 57 Channels 4 lengths back and completely tailed off pair 4. 4 from home now. Mary Gale the leader by about 4 lengths. Clare on Davis in second, and then Jasoo. Mary Gale the leader. Clare on Davis getting his jumping together and closes on the leader there. Jasoo is 4 lengths back, another 4 lengths to 57 Channels, and completely out of contention pair 4 as they run to the third last, the final ditch, and Mary Gale 2.5 lengths up on Clare on Davis, and who's gone about 6 clear of Jasoo, who's about to be taken on for third place by 57 Channels as they run around the turn now with the second last coming up, and Mary Gale with a 4-length lead. Clare on Davis in second, and they're clear of 57 Channels in third, then Jasoo, and pair 4 completely tailed off. 2 from home now. Mary Gale, Clare on Davis 2.5 lengths off. Mary Gale the leader from Clare on Davis, and they're clear of 57 Channels. Jasoo back and forth as they run the turn. 1 fence left to jump. Francis Woods goes for his stick, gives Clare on Davis a couple of reminders, but off the bend it's Mary Gale the leader. Mary Gale from Clare on Davis in second, and they're followed by 57 Channels a long way back to Jasoo as they come to the final fence. Mary Gale the leader, and with a lead of 3 to 4 lengths over Clare on Davis, is not making much impression. Mary Gale jumps the last well, clear from Clare on Davis in second, and then 57 Channels, and Mary Gale all the way, stretching his advantage as they race up inside the last 150 yards. Mary Gale in receipt of £15, putting up a nice performance and going to the line. Mary Gale wins the McCain handicap chase for Richard Dunwoody, wins it 7 to 8 lengths. Second is Clare on Davis, and they're clear of 57 Channels and Jasoo, and pair 4 has just jumped the last fence now to complete the course, last of the 5 runners. So there's our winner, number 2, Mary Gale, owned by Herb Stanley, trained by Jim Draper and ridden by Richard Dunwoody, makes all and runs away from Clare on Davis on the approach to the last.
Well, Mary Gale has jumped well enough, some of them very good, some of them just ordinary, but he jumped the last couple really well when it counted. Claren Davis, sketchy enough for some of his jumping, just adequate, never spectacular. Wrighton was on the wall once Richard Dunwoody stepped up the tempo off the last bend, and Claren Davis cannot give £15 to a sparkling Mary Gale here today. Jumps it well. Franny Woods realises he can't get any closer, he's not going to be overharding him, he's always going to be second, and Richard Dunwoody takes no chances with Mary Gale as he gives him a backhander and drives him out to the line. I'm sure Jim Draper will have mixed reactions about this, because I think had he run so well at Punchestown, and Punchestown was a little bit further back, he would have entered him in the Ericsson here on Saturday for 50,000, but that race closed early. Stupidly, I think it closed early, and it misses the likes of Mary Gale. But he's got nice consolation here with 6,850 quid. But I think Leopardstown is a loser. The Ericsson is definitely a loser, and I think connections are as well too, that this fellow wasn't able to get into that race at a later closing date. Nice performance by him. He was always a very good horse. As I said, lost his way a bit last year. He had an old wind problem that came against him. Graham Bradley pulled him up in the King George at Kempton, and Jim got him operated on. And sometimes those old operations take a bit of time for a horse just to get back into concert pitch. His first run was disappointing. His second run wasn't much better, but I must say I was very encouraged by his run at Punchestown. It was a big improvement than else we'd seen, and he's gone on and done it better here again. Herb Stanley, his popular owner on the right, and Trish Draper there, fair-haired lady, standing alongside him. I don't see Jim appeared just yet. He probably will appear. Maybe he's somewhere else today. But it's a nice performance from this horse. It's always good to see a good horse win races and get back into the limelight, because the racing public, like any other public, are fickle enough. A couple of bad runs and they call him all sorts of names. He's a big windy so-and-so, and he's a gutless so-and-so, and they leave it hanging, and fellas say, he was never much good. And the same fellas, when he wins a couple of races, they'll be down baiting the back off the fella who owned him, tell him what a good horse he has and come on for a jar. But the horse can't have problems that nobody knows anything about sometimes, and they can't do anything about it. This old fella has come back well. In Richard Dunwoody, he has a very fine partner. I don't think Richard is ever riding any better than he's riding now. You possibly couldn't ride any better than he rides anyway. Tony, the SP on the McCain's handicap chase is as follows.
The winner number 2, Mary Gale, 5-4. Second number 1, Claren Davis, the 5-4 on favourite. Third number 3, 57 channels at 8-1, and all 5 ran.
With me now, I have a very delighted trainer, Jim Draper. Congratulations, Jim, a marvellous improvement with the horse. Were you very surprised at how well it went for him?
Yes, I would have to say yes, because he cut out badly he ran terrible the first twice, and then cut out at Punchestown. But anyone who's trained a horse who's had this operation, they've all told me it takes a lot more work than anyone thinks.
Tell us a little bit about that operation, Jim.
Well, he'd been hobdated as a 3-year-old, and what do we know, 5 years later, just tissue decay had set in his larynx, which prevented him breathing properly, and that's what happened last January in Sandown. He just choked up, ran short of air. So he had what they call a tie-back operation, which, as I understand it, I'm not a vet, but as I understand, they just cut away the bad tissue and tie back an opening in his larynx to let him breathe. Now, he can't sing, but hopefully he can breathe. But anyone, as I say, who's had these horses before, they all say it takes more work than you'd think. So each run has got a bit better, so maybe this is true.
So the plan now after this?
The plan, well, subject to speaking to Richard and Woody, straight answer is I don't know, because we came here just hoping and expecting. I don't know what we'll do. I don't know. You see, he's probably not quick enough to be a 2-miler. I mean, Claren Davis was trying to give him £15, and that'd have to be a doubt, especially in a place like Cheltenham about staying the extra 2 furlongs. So he's a little bit in between, but we'll find something for him.
Well, I thought it was a marvellous performance today. Were you pleased with his jumping?
Yes, very good. He fiddled a couple well. I mean, he wasn't as brilliant perhaps today as he was at Punchestown, but he did the correct thing. It's easy for us to stand at the ground and ask him to stand at the wings each time, but the horse did the right thing.
It must be a great feeling to be standing here now. He looks like being the horse that we always thought he was going to be.
Yeah, well, he's getting back to it, certainly getting back to it, yeah. Few and far between.
Best of luck with him. Thanks very much, Jim.
Well, he was certainly on song today, but getting £15 off Claren Davis, bit of after timing, didn't he look well handicapped? But a good performance. The tongue-tie operation, tie-back operations obviously have succeeded. Skew, have you had many of those done too?
Yes, as Jim was pointing out, first of all, you usually have them hobdayed, which is a little flap in there that is tied back, and then And as I say, sometimes they'll do both the operations on them, tie back and hobday them. So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I always think the horses are not really meant to be operated on. It's against their conformation. When they're put down, they'll struggle sometimes and hurt themselves getting up, and the anaesthetic can have a bad effect on them. But if it works, it's great.
Well, two interesting things there. Richard Dunwoody got a terrific song out of him, didn't they? And secondly, the distance, 2¼ miles. This was a horse who was a Go Cup horse 2 years ago.
Yes, but I think you've got to remember these class horses can travel over 2 miles. We've seen them in the past. I mean, an example would be Pendle, who was capable of winning good chases over 2 miles. Yes, two great jumps by the leader Mary Gale there and Clarence Davis, who I thought jumped particularly well. Thought he was going quite well at this point, Clarence Davis, but as I tried to point out before, the extra ¼ mile on a stiff track like this is perhaps just against him and giving £15 away. It straightened up here now to quite a difficult fence because it's all for Ben. Richard just having a peep round, realising that Clarence Davis is sat on his tail, not panicking too much. It is important now that he goes and gets a good jump, and then when you jump here, you get a good jump, you can then quicken round the bend and go well, and just Richard just gets in short. But the horse was clever, as Jim pointed out, and now you can see Richard is able to extend, and it's difficult for a horse to come round the outside of him to come and beat him. And in a minute we'll see Frankie just give his horse a crack. He wasn't giving him a smack just to make him go about his business.
This used to be the Scudamore bend, didn't it?
Yes, well, this is I went wrong here. Before the rails, these are the Scudamore rails. Yes, there used to be a hurdle marker out there that I completely missed, and I was booed when I came in. So I was hoping you'd forgotten about that. But Richard's given his horse Mary Gale a smack here. And just straightened him out. He's a little bit open the last year. You just saw the horse have a little bit of a look at the wing there. Lovely piece of riding by Richard. I'll keep saying on television here, watch Richard how to ride. He's not flamboyant on a horse over an obstacle, but he keeps his horse's mind on the job and makes him go about his business. As Ted pointed out, he rode him all the way to the line, quite rightly. As I said before, it's a stiff finish here. They can come back at you. Today was the day for Mary Gale. Clarence Davis to be looking at Cheltenham.
Well, Jim Draper didn't quite know where he was going. Where would you go with him now? Remember, he won the Martell Cup 3 miles 1 furlong at Liverpool 2 years ago.
That's right. I mean, Cheltenham isn't everything, and perhaps an easy 3 mile rather than a stiff 3 mile would suit him. And with the Liverpool or Aintree becoming more and more important in the racing calendar now, then perhaps he could sidestep Cheltenham and go straight to Aintree.
Clarence Davis, well, you forgive him that.
Oh, I have nothing to forgive. I think he's run a great race. He's given £15 to a very, very good horse. And the one question mark over him, we know he gallops very well. Is his jumping going to hold together? It's held together today, and he's the one they've all got to beat when they get to Cheltenham.
Sure. Right, now we can take a check on some starting prices from courses elsewhere. Musselburgh, the second race there. The winner was number 1, Blue Charm at 9 to 4. Second, number 8, Winter Bell at 16 to 1. And third, a big outsider, number 5, Fine Time at 100 to 1. 2 non-runners there, numbers 4 and 9, and the favourite was number 3 at 6 to 5 on. And the 135 at Musselburgh, number 5, Smolensk, the 7 to 4 favourite. Second, number 3, Cheetah at 14 to 1, and third, number 8, Little Red Wing, another big price at 50 to 1, the non-runner there, number 7. And from the all-weather meeting at Southall, the 115, number 1, Kalar, 13 to 2. Second, number 7, Craigie Boy, 9 to 2. And third, number 2, Bold Aristocrat, the 7 to 2 joint favourite. The other joint favourite was number 4. Well, now back 24 hours, and that splendid win by one man in the Potemps King George Stakes. He won it pretty comfortably his second year running, but there was an equally good run by the runner-up, Rough Quest, on ground that was much firmer than he wanted. He was hanging most of the way there, which puts us in mind of his great win in the Martell Grand National back in March. Going back quite a long way there, but I wonder if you remember just how easily he was going all through the race there. He just never really had to do anything in the race because he's just a class number. Of course, he was racing off a mark of 149, which made it quite easy for him. So let's now look back and watch him very carefully through the race at the story of Aintree 1996.
Jerry Scott wanting those heads off the tape. This looks a possibility. Yes, they're away and racing towards the Melling Road, and as they do so, Captain Dibble goes on from Bavardier on the outside. Young Hustler with superior finish right up with them as well, and then comes Sir Peter Lely. Bavardier on the inside. Over on the far side, Young Hustler right up with them with superior finish, and Peter Lely, and now three brownies coming to join him, and over to John Hanmer.
And Young Hustler is just about in the lead as they jump the first from Shaw Metal towards the outside. All the leaders over safely. There's one down towards the back, which is Bavardier, and there's another one down too as they jump the second, and Shaw Metal in the lead from three brownies on the near side, then Sir Peter Lely, superior finish, Young Hustler, and the other fall of Bishop's Hall. Meanwhile, over the third, it's Shaw Metal in front of three brownies. And then looking back, there's a faller towards the back, which is party politics. Meanwhile, at the fourth, Shaw Metal the leader, and over to Jim McGrath.
And Shaw Metal it is who leads over there from three brownies, and right up there on the outside showing dashes over the deal. Wild Hyde is there as well, and just behind them is Sir Peter Lely as they go to number 5. Son of War the Grey is beautifully poised behind the leaders. Young Hustler's not that far away from the pace as they all got over that one okay, and Chatham has refused at the tail of the field as they head towards Beecher's Brook for the first time. And the leaders here right up in the centre, Shaw Metal in company there with on the near side three brownies up there as well, Sir Peter Lely. They're followed by Green Hills Raffles as the leaders got over it okay. In fact, they're all over Beecher's okay, and three brownies for Paul Carberry shows the way to the Foynehaven fence. From in second placing Shaw Metal, then in third on the inside Green Hill Raffles, followed then by Sir Peter Lely. Next in the field is Young Hustler, who's up there hacking on the outside in fifth. They're followed by Over the Deal, superior finish on the inside of Wild Hyde as they come to the canal turn. Son of War not that far away. Then Life of the Lord back in the field as they clear the canal turn. Further back is Brackenfield, followed then on the inside by Into the Red. Well back in the field is Rust Never Sleeps from Deep Brandle as they go now to Valentine's, and the leaders got over it safely. Among the tail enders is Encore and Per, Lusty Light, and well back in the field Vicomte de Valmont with Captain Dibble as we rejoin John Hanmer.
And coming to the 10th, and the leader, Shaw Metal. In second place, three brownies, then Young Hustler on the outside, the back marker streaming over. Didn't see a faller there as they come to an open ditch, fence number 11, and it's Shaw Metal from Young Hustler, three brownies, then Over the Deal. They're followed by Sir Peter Lely, then Green Hill Raffles, then Wild Hyde, superior finish. And just behind them, Life of a Lord as they come to the 12th fence. Shaw Metal's going to take it in front of Young Hustler, Bishop's Hall, then Over the Deal comes next. And just in behind them comes Sir Peter Lely, then Green Hills Raffle, superior finish, Wild Hyde, Life of a Lord, Riverside Boy, Deep Bramble, then Rough Quest, Brackenfield, and they're followed by Son of War. Behind Son of War is Encore and Purse made a bit of ground, then Rust Never Sleeps and Antonin. Behind them comes Into the Red, and then a gap to Far Senior and Over the Stream, and then Lusty Light and Vicomte de Valmont and Captain Dibble as they go to the next, and over to Peter O'Sullivan.
And still blazing the trail, three brownies on the inside of Shaw Metal. These two, Shaw Metal and three brownies, with Young Hustler prominent in third. They've got a loose horse between three brownies and Young Hustler. Shaw Metal coming to this, the sheepskin noseband lands just in the lead from three brownies. Then comes Young Hustler just in behind them. Green Hill Raffles is next, and then Over the Deal, and then superior finish. Rust Never Sleeps has been pulled up. Coming to the next, and still Shaw Metal, Young Hustler, and three brownies. They're heading on the far side, Sir Peter Lely, Green Hill Raffles well up there too. Son of War the Grey over on the far side, being followed by Into the Red and Riverside Boy, and this is the chair, and three brownies, and Shaw Metal and Young Hustler, the three leaders, and going smoothly in the lead, and they're all over the chair and coming down to the water. And as they come to it, three brownies landed in the lead from Young Hustler in second. Third was Shaw Metal. Fourth, Sir Peter Lely. Five on the inside is Green Hill Raffles, and on the outside then is into the red. Behind them come Riverside Boy and Brackenfield, and then getting closer is Son of War. Then on the outside is Life of a Lord. Just in behind Life of the Lord and travelling well is Rough Quest, moving towards the outside, but still it's Young Hustler, 3 Brownies, Shaw Metal, Brackenfield and Green Hill Raffles disputing it as we rejoin John Hanmer.
Coming to the 17th, 3 Brownies on the inside with Young Hustler. Brackenfield's right up there too. Towards the outside, Life of a Lord and Rough Quest making ground. Far Seniors tailed off, and so is Vicomte de Valmont as they come to the 18th. Young Hustler disputing it. Over the Deals right up there too. Then Life of a Lord on the outside, 3 Brownies on the inner. Then comes Son of War. Sir Peter Lely's right there, so is Brackenfield. Deep Bramble and Rough Quest are right on terms. Then into the red, over the 19th, an open ditch. And it was Young Hustler who landed in the lead there. Brackenfield has fallen. And as they go to the 20th, it's Young Hustler, 3 Brownies, Sir Peter Lely. Then Riverside Boy, who's made ground, and over the Deal. And here's Jim McGrath.
And Young Hustler in the centre, running the race of his life. Up there in the van here from Riverside Boy and Sir Peter Lely. On the near side, 3 Brownies. And further out then is Over the Deal from Life of a Lord. Rough Quest is going very wide as they go to the 21st. Riverside Boy went through the top of that. The grey Son of War about 10th position on the inside here of Over the Stream. Superior finishes out very wide with Rough Quest as they come now towards Beaches the second time. And it's Young Hustler who leads them out in the centre by a couple of lengths here as he comes to Beaches and jumped it well. From in second placing Sir Peter Lely. Then in third on the inside follows 3 Brownies from Encore and Purr, who's steadily making ground. Back towards the rear as they go towards the next. Life of a Lord gets through that from Riverside Boy. They're followed then by Over the Deal. Further back is Deep Bramble. Superior finish. Son of War starting to make some ground. Rough Quest is in centre field, has lost ground. Far Senior's been pulled up as they go to the canal turn. Further back in the field is Wild Hyde as they go over that one. And Son of War has gone and seen to the right of there. Well back in the field is into the red from Captain Dibble, Vicomte de Valmont. They're followed then back in the field by Green Hills Raffles as they go over Valentine's now. And Lusty Light is last of all. Wild Hyde has gone there. And second last Shaw Medal as we rejoin John Hanmer.
And they've got 5 to jump. And Young Hustler led over that one from Encore en Peur. Then Sir Peter Lely right there. Just in behind them on the inside. 3 Brownies still there. Then Life of a Lord and Rough Quest who's made ground. The last open ditch 4 out and Encore en Peur. Then just in front of Young Hustler. Then 3 Brownies, Sir Peter Lely. Life of a Lord, Rough Quest, a gap to Deep Bramble and Superior finish. And then Over the Deal as they jump the third last. And 3 Brownies, Encore en Peur and Young Hustler took it together. They're clear of Rough Quest. Then comes Sir Peter Lely, Life of a Lord, Deep Bramble, Superior finish, Over the Deal, Riverside Boy and Over the Stream, and they're well clear of Antonin. And as they've crossed the Milling Road now with 2 to jump, and it's back to Peter O'Sullivan.
And it's close up front with 3 Brownies still the leader. On the outside nearest to us, travelling very sweetly is Encore en Peur, who's gone second ahead of Young Hustler, who's third, the top weight, and then still making ground is Rough Quest in fourth. In behind Rough Quest is Sir Peter Lely. Behind Sir Peter Lely is Life of a Lord. But as they come down now to the second last fence in the National, it's Encore en Peur who's going to land in the lead from 3 Brownies and Young Hustler, but Rough Quest still making steady progress. They're coming down now towards the final fence, and it's Encore en Peur, the leader. It looks as though Rough Quest is going to be the challenger. Encore en Peur over it, Rough Quest over in second. Young Hustler's over in third, 3 Brownies 4, racing towards the elbow, and it's Encore en Peur from Rough Quest. Encore en Peur, ridden by David Bridgewater from Rough Quest. Rough Quest coming to tackle him towards the near side. Rough Quest, the Gold Cup second, is now striding away, and Rough Quest is going to win the 1996 National. Rough Quest comes up to the line to win it. Rough Quest is the winner. Encore en Peur is second. It's going to be very close for third, and at the line it's a photo.
Rough Quest wins the National. How wonderful to have a horse underneath you so you can ride a race with that sort of confidence cue, because really he just never put him into the race until the last half mile, did he?
No, although he made it look very easy, it really was a sheer brilliant piece of riding. I'd have got excited a lot sooner than Mick Fitzgerald did.
But he won that off a rating of 149. He'll be up to 170 now. Is it possible for him to win off 21 pounds higher, do you think?
I think it is. It's much easier to disguise a horse's handicap coming from behind like that than it is when you're trying to make all. Interesting, Terry Casey has said all along that the Gold Cup would be his aim this season. He felt that he wasn't quite at his best during last season's Gold Cup, and he improved after it. So, you know, we'll see. If he does go and win the Gold Cup, then he's quite entitled to carry 12 stone, and perhaps, you know, we'll all say how well handicapped he was last year.
Well, the weights for the Martel National about 6 weeks away. Have any other horses caught your eye, and in particular, what's the news about Young Hustler?
Young Hustler, again, will be aimed at the Grand National. A horse there that I know is in good form, and Martin hasn't run him yet, but he is Encore en Peur, who will be prepared for the Grand National. Horse that I'd put down early in the season is Scott and Banks as a Grand National horse. He's had a run round national course this year, but made a couple of mistakes and has been slightly disappointing. But if he comes back to himself, he could just look well handicapped.
And very briefly, Goose, 17 finishes out of 27 runners there. Is it time to bump the fences up again a bit?
No, I don't think so. Things have changed. It's still it's what the public wants now. It's a competitive handicap steeplechase. It's good to see good class horses like Rough Quest running. The answer is, you know, is to bring horses home safe and sound. Okay, the race has changed. There's no doubt about it, but it's still the world's greatest steeplechase.
Peter, thank you. We move on now to our third race at Leopardstown. It's the first choice Novices Hurdle. We've got one absentee here, which is number 3, Lister Paw, but those that go are number 1, Delphi Lodge, who's ridden by Mr. Tony Martin. 2 is 3 Scholars, the mount of Richard Dunwoody, and the stable companion of the second favourite, Palette. Number 4 is All the Vowels in John Mulhern's colours. Remember, he won the second race with Milton Fields. All the Vowels ridden by Shane Broderick. 5 is the long odds-on favourite Istabraq, ridden by Charlie Swan. And 6 is the second best Palette, ridden by David Casey. And the betting. Istabraq is a 7-2 on favourite in his third race over hurdles. Then it's 3-1 second best Palette, 12-1 3 Scholars, 16-1 All the Vowels, and outsider of the lot, 25-1 Delphi Lodge. Well, Istabraq already anti-post favourite for one of the big Novices Hurdles at Cheltenham, and there he is in the white colours with, correction, that's Palette, but that's he on his way to post in the colours of J.P. McManus. Caught me for a moment because they're not quite right in the newspaper, Istabraq, but this is the horse who was trained by John Gosden on the flat, and John Durkan bought him privately. John, who was John Gosden's assistant trainer. But sadly, John Durkan's suffering from leukemia, so he's passed to the stable of Aiden O'Brien. But of course, he'll revert when the time comes for John Durkan to take up his license. Now, Istabraq confirmed the 7-2 on favourite there. The mount of Charlie Swan, and he was very, very impressive last time, this horse. And the secret with him, I think, he got a little bit jazzed up when he was trained by John Gosden. He's been gelded now. He's a much cooler horse. This is Delphi Lodge, one of the outsiders, trained by Tom Taff, making his way to post. Peter, briefly, how do you see the outcome here? Do you see any danger to Istabraq?
Yes, it's always very difficult. You know, the horse has had one run and looked impressive. He's there to be shot at. He was a decent horse on the flat with John Gosden. He's by Sadler's Wells. They don't always take to hurdles the best. We've seen some good ones in Pridwell, I suppose, notably has been a shining example, but I suppose a lot of mares, when they are sent to Sadler's Wells, the prodigy aren't expected to be running over hurdles. But yes, it's an interesting contest and a pointer towards Cheltenham and Aintree.
Very celebrated colours those, of course. And number 2 there, the quarter colours, the 3 Scholars, stable companion of Palette. That's Palette in the white colours with the blue V. And 3 Scholars it is, who is the outsider of the entire lot. while the sun's shining at Leopardstown. And Aiden O'Brien awaiting his first winner of the afternoon. We think he's going to have it here with Istabraq. Let's join our colleagues with the Irish television service.
He's not afraid to take the hot pots on, get no prizes or staying at home. There's 3,000 quid to be second, 1,500 to be fourth, or 1,500 to be third and 600 to be fourth.
So a little change in the market up top with Istabraq still, the 100 to 30 on favourite, Palette 100 to 30 against, 3 Scholars steady on 12s, all the Vowels 16s, Delphi Lodge 25s.
All the Vowels, the only one we didn't mention, is Salaman and Moogilling, belongs to John Mulhern, already with a winner here in Milton Field, second to Toast the Spree at Navan in a handicap, and he beat Swift Cert and all the one at Galway before that back in October. Tony Sweeney, any change? Well, Stephen Quirk has raised his red flag. That's the signal to raise the white one. Tony O'Hare, time for you.
Ready to roll with the first choice Novice Hurdler, 3 to 1 on favourite Istabraq on the left in the green and gold hoops. Off and running and heading towards the first flight, 3 Scholars and Richard Dunwoody in the lead from Istabraq. Charlie Swan in second, and they're followed by All the Vowels, the red colours in third. The grey on the inside is Delphi Lodge, and Palette towards the outer as they clear the first and run the turn into the straight. 3 Scholars making it from the odds-on favourite Istabraq. 3 Scholars in the colours of Jackie Mullins, wife of the trainer, in the lead. All the Vowels in second, Shane Broderick. Then Istabraq. Delphi Lodge is next on the inside of Palette. At the second, 3 Scholars. Jumps it well. 6 lengths clear of All the Vowels. Istabraq runs 3, and then Palette on the outside of Delphi Lodge as they go to the flight of hurdles past the stands. Number 3 in this 2 1/4 mile novice. And 3 Scholars clear by almost 8 lengths to All the Vowels in second. Just about to jump this one now, and 3 Scholars clear from All the Vowels. Then Istabraq on the outside, the grey Delphi Lodge under Tony Martin 4, and 5th and last Palette and David Casey as they head up towards the 4th. Covered almost 3/4 of a mile, and 3 Scholars clear of All the Vowels. Istabraq left of the picture, and then Delphi Lodge and Palette last of the quintet. Flight number 4. 3 Scholars the leader. It's Thurles maiden winner over from All the Vowels and Istabraq, little between them. And they're followed by Delphi Lodge and finally Palette as they go left-handed towards the back straight. 3 Scholars clear from All the Vowels showing second. Istabraq on the outside in 3. Delphi Lodge 4. And last of the 5 runners, Palette. As they swing down the far side, a good long run to the 5th flight. 3 Scholars with a clear lead, almost 10 lengths now from All the Vowels, half a length then to Istabraq, who's 2 in front of Palette, who's relegated Delphi Lodge to last place. At the 5th, 3 Scholars clear from Istabraq, who's moved up alongside All the Vowels, and they're followed by Palette and Delphi Lodge in rear. And they have 4 hurdles left to jump now, and 3 Scholars midway down the back straight in the lead from Istabraq showing second ahead of All the Vowels, Palette and Delphi Lodge together. Four from home, 3 Scholars over, 6 clear of Istabraq, 2 lengths then to All the Vowels, Palette 4th, and 5th and last is Delphi Lodge. Charlie Swan on the favourite, just taking a brief glance under his left arm there to see what's happening behind, as he has the leader in his sights over this one. 3 Scholars, Istabraq within about 3.5 lengths. Palette has gone third past All the Vowels, and Delphi Lodge brings up the rear as they start the long bend off the back straight. 2 hurdles left to jump, 3 Scholars in the lead. Istabraq closing the gap now quickly in second place as they run now towards the second last. 3 Scholars with Istabraq, Charlie Swan poised in second place, and they're clear as they come down to it now. 3 Scholars Istabraq on the outside, Paulette in pursuit in third, but 2 from home, 3 Scholars, Istabraq on the outside, and Charlie takes a glance over his shoulder there, coming wide on Istabraq. 3 Scholars comes under pressure there, cleared of Paulette and Delphi Lodge, and all the valves has dropped away, and Istabraq goes clear as they run towards the final flight and the first choice Novice Hurl and the hot pot. Istabraq clear from 3 Scholars, Paulette, Delphi Lodge. There'll be a battle on for the minor placings, but Istabraq only has to jump the last. Istabraq safely over, jumps it well, clear. Paulette lands second ahead of Delphi Lodge. 3 Scholars has stopped very quickly and racing inside the last 100 yards now. A very easy win for the long odds-on favourite Istabraq. Wins it in a canter. Paulette second, as she was at Fairyhouse. Delphi Lodge 3, and they're clear of 3 Scholars and finally all the vows. So it looked pretty much a one-horse race on the book, and so it turned out. Istabraq, the third winner over the 2 days for owner J.P. McManus. Successful here yesterday with Grimes in the Denny Juvenile Hurl and Finnegan's Hollow in a maiden hurl, and a nice performance from the Cheltenham bound Istabraq, Charlie Swan and Aiden O'Brien.
Result of the first choice Novice Hurdle 5, 6, 1. Number 2 was 4.
Well, he did exactly what you expect a 7-2-1 shot to do. Yeah, he beat these with the utmost ease. Charlie just lies down and lets him quicken up a little bit here to put a bit of daylight between himself and the ones behind, and he meets the last nice and pops it well. A few down the back he didn't jump as good, but you're looking for to pick holes in what looks a fairly decent horse. He's gone there and won well. I'd like to see a bit more opposition around him just to assess exactly what he's beaten. As you said beforehand, these are 3 maiden hurl winners behind him, and I don't know where it's going to come from, but I'm sure by the time he gets to Cheltenham, something will breathe down his neck and we'll see how good he is. He looks a very good horse, and he does it really well, and that's all you can say.
Well, he certainly looks like a decent horse, and a great tribute to John Durkan. Everyone wishes his well in his battle against leukemia. We hope to be fit enough to take up a licence in the next couple of months or so. And J.P. McManus has made it perfectly clear when he is fit again, the horse will go from Aiden O'Brien to John Durkan, and of course Aiden accepts that. And Skew, that looks a real Cheltenham horse, doesn't it?
Yes, I loved him. I thought he jumped really well. A horse like that, plenty of talent on the flat, only has to pick his feet up, but he looks a lovely compact little horse, doesn't he? Jumps well. I suppose the question mark now is whether when the fields become bigger, whether he'll like the hustle and bustle of big fields around him. But if he does, then he's got a bright future for him over hurdles. But I was very impressed with him.
Well, let's take another look at the closing stages again. The thing about him is that he didn't settle that well early on, but they didn't go any pace today, did they?
No, we were chatting through the race, weren't we, going through. They weren't going quick early on. Richard Dunwoody on 3 Scholars, I suppose Charlie Swan would be delighted to see him cantering along and just give him a lead. A flat horse like this would have been taught to follow one in all his work at John Gosden's and pulled out to go, so he wouldn't want to be in front too soon on him. This is the crucial point of the race, where as he starts to move up sides, going to the second last here. Is he going to put down? Is he going to hesitate? Is he going to become unsure of himself when he gets to the front? No, he doesn't. He cruises up there very nicely. Charlie Swan, the brilliant jockey that he is able just to keep his hands on the horse's neck, to not interfere with him at all, going to the hurdle, which is the ideal situation. He's already had a look across at Richard Dunwoody, see that he's got him beaten, just drives him into the hurdle, makes sure he goes about his business, and the horse responds beautifully, jumps nicely, perhaps doesn't get away very, very quick from him. Charlie's allowed himself a look over the shoulder. Correct place to look over the shoulder there. We often get, or jockeys often get criticised for looking round, but you should look round as far away from the next obstacle as possible, because sometimes when you look round you can unbalance the horse, but he's looked around before he got to the bend. Now he can concentrate on that last hurdle. And horses get so much confidence from what Charlie Swan is doing there. Just sort of lent up his ear, just grabbed hold of the horse, and the horse feels he's the greatest in the world, and everything's very, very easy to him, and he's able to run to the last here very easily. I thought Tom Taft's horse Delphi Lodge and the grey horse of the blue was going to run on to be second, but was unable to get past Paulette. Just looked to be going quite comfortably here under Tony Martin, Delphi Lodge, but not to be. Here Charlie's just able to ease up, let the horse find his stride, Jumps out beautifully, yes.
Now, the big question now is, I mean, if he was yours, would you go for the 2 mile at Cheltenham or the 2.5 mile?
I would go for the 2 mile. I mean, not that I want to tell Aiden O'Brien how to train horses, but
He was a 2 mile horse in the flat, remember?
But the 2 mile at Cheltenham is a very, very stiff 2 mile. They'll go a right gallop, and time and time again you'll see a stayer will come out of that type of hurdle race, especially as a novice, rather than the 2.5, which you see very much the more steeplechasing type horses go on and win. That's not a golden rule, but very often that is the case.
Well, there he is. He's a quality horse. He's a saddle as well. Let's now check on the starting prices. And he was returned at 100 to 30 on. Second was Palette, the 100 to 30 second favourite, and on run number 3, only 5 ran. And elsewhere, the all-weather track at Southall, the 145, the winner number 4, Albahar, 5 to 4 favourite, winner there for Jack Banks. Second number 2, Royal Legend at 7 to 2. Third number 1, Hornbite at 10 to 1, 7 ran. And news from Harare of Zimbabwe's chase of England's first innings total of 156 on the second day of the test match there. Well, Zimbabwe had reached 93 for 2 when rain stopped play. Fowler 33 not out, Houghton 26 not out, Alistair Campbell out for 22. So Zimbabwe making slow but steady progress. Disappointing day yesterday for England, Peter. Were any of those England players, any of those your rabbits? I know you've knocked over Lara in the past.
I've caught Lara out and actually bowled him, but no, I was a bit worried actually. I thought I might get the call out there for a bit of leg spin bowling, but not to be.
Well, I wouldn't bowl at Nick Knight because he hit me all over the county ground at Southampton in September. Right, well, we'll keep in touch with that if play is resumed at Harare. Well, 9 cancellations yesterday, 4 meetings off today. It's been a pretty expensive weekend for racing at, of course, one of the most important times of the year for racing because of the huge turnover that there is of these bank holiday meetings. So, problems obviously for the industry, both for the racing and betting industries, and I'm pleased now to welcome the Chief Executive of the British Horse Racing Board, Tristram Ricketts. Tristram, just how damaging have these cancellations been?
Well, it goes without saying, Julian, it's been a very damaging and frustrating period. A lot of money will have disappeared from the betting shops, and the racing industry itself will have suffered. Jockeys will have foregone riding fees, owners will have foregone prize money, the connections, stable percentages and so on, and the racecourses will have lost valuable income through the turnstiles. So it's been a very depressing 2 or 3 days.
Normally a day like Boxing Day, you'd expect about £30 million to be bet. There were just 2 meetings instead of, what, 11. How much will that have been eroded, do you think?
Well, clearly there will have been very substantial erosion. Thank goodness we did have Kempton running yesterday. And the other difference from previous years, of course, was the fact that we did have a all-weather meeting at Lingfield. After the devastation of the Boxing Day programme last year, we made arrangements for standby fixtures at the all-weather tracks in the post-Christmas period. When the weather forecast looked as if it was going to deteriorate at the end of last week, we activated that arrangement for Lingfield on Boxing Day. We've activated the arrangements for Wolverhampton and Southall, and again at Lingfield next week. So that will have helped keep turnover up, and of course there was the Irish racing as well. It's too early to say precisely what damage it will have done, but it won't have been anything like as damaging as it was last year.
But is that money forfeited, is that money that's lost to racing? Or could it be clawed back somehow?
Well, I think that some of it might come back, but of course with so many other betting opportunities now in the betting shops, the danger will have been that it will simply have been put on other sports.
Well, it's a big loss, as you say, and it comes at the end of the year when betting turnover obviously has been greatly affected by other factors.
Yes, the National Lottery has clearly done deep damage to turnover. The levy was some £5.5 million lower than it would otherwise have been in 1995, and further damage has been done this year. It has been helped a bit by the reduction in betting duty that took effect from March of this year. It was disappointing that we weren't able to persuade the Chancellor to build on that this budget, but we hope that once we get through this period that things will start to improve again.
Tristram, on a broad canvas, this is the end of the 3rd year since the institution of the British Horse Racing Board. It came in with a great fanfare. Do you feel after the 3 years that you're travelling well?
I think that we're travelling fairly well, Julian, yes. I think that we have a lot to be proud of. The introduction of Sunday racing, if I may mention it in your presence. The introduction of the sponsorship for owners under the VAT arrangements have given owners over £6.5 million worth of new income. We've introduced a much-needed flexibility into the fixture list, and the arrangements for standby fixtures are just but one aspect of that. Our marketing efforts have been extremely successful in encouraging new owners, sponsors and so on. So I think that we've got a lot to be proud of, but equally we recognise that there's an awful lot to do. The main worry within the industry, as was articulated very clearly in the post-budget period, is the depressing levels of prize money in this country. And that is a nut that we haven't yet cracked, and we need to work hard in the months and years to come to ensure that our prize money levels do improve, to enable us to compete effectively internationally and to encourage domestic investment.
Well, you mentioned the post-budget period, and there was a feeling at the Racing Industry Forum recently that there was a slight loss of confidence, if you like, in the BHB and indeed the leadership, if any, of the BHB as it was voiced by the Racehorse Owners Association. Do you accept that there is strong criticism?
Well, I accept that there has been some criticism. There have been some very vociferous critics of the leadership of BHB, but I think it was also fairly clear at the forum that they were a minority. But on the other hand, there are some problems. Those have been articulated very clearly, and we need to try and deal with them. I have been asked by the board to prepare a discussion paper during January to enable a wide-ranging debate to take place in the next 2 or 3 months to see whether we can find a new way forward. But one mustn't be over-alarmed by the doom and gloom merchants. There's an awful lot underneath it all, of which we can be very, very proud. We've seen some wonderful racing yesterday. One man, I think, is beginning now to build into the new Desert Orchid, and let's hope that we see some further fine performances from that splendid horse in the early part of next year.
At the forum, Lord Wakeham talked about unity. He said the only way forward for racing was unity in any future approach to chancellors and so on. But how can there be unity in the racecourse industry when there are so many disparate bodies? I mean, there are 8 major players in the racing industry, all pulling in different directions. For instance, the owners, trainers, jockeys, stable lads, the racecourses themselves, the breeders, the bookmakers and television. They've all got a different agenda. How can they possibly march forward under the same flag?
Well, they may have a slightly different agenda, but at the end of the day, they are all interested in one thing, and that is the future prosperity of the sport. And it's very important that we don't lose sight of that very important fact. If we don't unite, if we don't find some new sense of common purpose, none of us are going to be able to fulfill the objective that we all set ourselves, which is to provide a more prosperous future for racing. So it's very important that people do unite behind the BHB leadership. We are going into a period now of a wide-ranging consultation period, and I hope that once the new policies are set in the spring and early summer of next year, that everybody is able to unite behind them and go forward for the betterment of racing, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
But do you feel that the improvement in the quality of horse racing and the finances of horse racing can ever be correlated to the fortunes of the betting industry?
Well, we felt very strongly when we were putting our case to the Chancellor of the Exchequer this year that it was necessary for us to be responsible and to produce a wide-ranging, very broadly based case which took account not only of the direct needs of racing but also of those of the punter. The punter is a very important customer of racing, providing over £50 million a year through the levy. It'd be crazy to turn our back on him. And also we need a profitable betting industry as well, because if the betting industry is not making profits, it won't be able to reinvest and provide the facilities that punters need and now expect to encourage them to invest further. So we were absolutely satisfied that this was the right course to take. We recognise that there are some critics of that particular position, and they will wish to have that situation re-examined, which we will do in the early part of next year.
Right, well, I'd like to bring in Peter Scudamore here, as someone who's obviously closely related to a racing stable. Do you feel that the BHB are serving you well, Peter?
No, the question I'd like to ask Tristan is looking at that list of different bodies within racing, do you think the BHB is representative of those bodies? Because I think there is the criticism, one of the main criticisms is perhaps there isn't enough feedback coming down through to those bodies.
Well, I think that when it was first established, BHB was set up for the first time as a representative body which would be running the racing industry. For the first time, racing had an executive role to play in deciding its own fortune. We have, as you know, a minority representation from the Jockey Club. We have direct representation from owners and racecourses, and all the other various interests are represented through the 3 members nominated by the Industry Committee. Our Industry Committee, which consists of 16 or 17 different associations, is playing an increasingly important role in policy making. They are one of the channels of communication. The board communicates with the Industry Committee and vice versa, and it's up to the representatives on the Industry Committee of the various associations to communicate back down the line to their association. So I think that the channels are there if people will use them properly.
The other thing came out of the forum, that one thing that worried me was it was mention of sort of closing of racecourses, particularly, I suppose it affects the national hunt racing really, courses like Hereford, Ludlow, small courses. People were talking about closing those and putting sort of their prize money into the major racecourses. Is that a viable thought?
Well, I think that it was only the training fraternity who were actually promoting that as a possibility, and that's something that we will certainly deal with in the consultation process. We have taken the view up to now that if a racecourse can pay its way, can attract good local patronage, and doesn't represent a disproportionate burden on levy board funds, that there's no reason why it shouldn't continue to offer the service to the local community. And I'm sure that the board will take a lot of shifting from that particular position. But the noises that some of the trainers have been making are rather divisive. We need to deal with it, we need to nail it, and that's what we intend to do in the first quarter of next year.
I'm not asking for actual figures, because I mean, it must be very difficult, but when you get a course like Sandown or Cheltenham with just a small number of runners on a day, and a course like Hereford, for example, that has 20 or 15 runners in a field, would that not, as far as betting turnover be concerned, be much more advantageous to the racing industry than, as I say, the 3 or 4 runners around Cheltenham?
Well, certainly, as we know, the punter welcomes races in which there are a good competitive field. That's quite clear. Having said that, if you get a high-profile race at any of our top racetracks, they can also attract good betting money. It'd be very interesting to see and to hear in due course how much money there was on the King George yesterday, for example, with only 4 or 5 runners. But that was a very high-quality field, and I think the punters are attracted to that. But certainly, it is one of the paradoxes of certain aspects of racing, that you can get a situation in which at some of our top courses you do get very high prize money and low runners, and then you get at one of the so-called gaff tracks exactly the reverse. And it's quite difficult against that background to argue that we do need a lot more prize money.
Tristram, thank you very much for coming in. Peter, thank you for those supplementary questions. And now we move on to our big race of the afternoon at Leopardstown, which is the Paddy Power Handicap Chase. And it's a fascinating race. 17 runners, wide open betting. These are the runners and riders. They're headed by number 1, Feathered Gale, which is one of 4 runners saddled by Arthur Moore, who's ridden by Mr. John McNamara. 2 is the ex-British Antonin, ridden by the former amateur Ken Whelan. 3 is Lord Singapore, the mount of David Casey. 4, wearing blinkers for the first time, an old hero in Nuaf, ridden by Terry Mitchell. 5 is Second Schedule, ridden by Mr. Greg Harford. 6 is Wild Hyde, perhaps the number 1 of Arthur Moore's runners, and carrying the colours of J.P. McManus. He's ridden by Francis Word. 7 is Ballyhar Lad, now ridden by Mr. Barry Cash. 8 is Tritherian, Brian Bowens. 9 is Heist, ridden by Kevin O'Brien. 10, quietly fancied outsider, Love and Porter, ridden by Doc O'Connor, the older brother rather, of Warren O'Connor. 11's another Arthur Moore one, Whale of a Night, the 3rd favourite, Paul Carberry. 12 is the favourite, New Co, ridden by Conor O'Dwyer. 13 is Back Bar, the mount of Shane Broderick. 14, Time for a Run, the mount of Richard Dunwoody, also in the McManus colours. 15 is Topical Tip, the mount of Tommy Tracy. 16, Beat the Second, Charlie Swan. And 17, Dancing Vision, the mount of James Jones. Well, you pays your money and you takes your pick. And Peter, Arthur Moore, 4 runners there. Does he hold the key to it?
Well, he holds the key to a lot in racing, doesn't he? Yes, it's interesting to see that Francis Woods has chosen Strong Hyde. A lot of experts believe that he's shown better form on softer ground, but as we saw in the replay of the Grand National, that he was going very well on the fast ground there at Aintree. Also, I liked to have a look at is JP McManus's other runner, Time for a Run. Very, very high-class hurdler that hasn't really fulfilled his promise over fences. But he is by deep run, and sometimes the deep run horses do take longer.
He ran well in that Punchestown race, didn't he?
He did.
He was on the heels of them 3 out.
And that form is good, you know, is good enough from his just over fences. But if he can just progress a little bit further, then you know, he could be one that to make them all look to their laurels today.
Right, well, the horse who led the anti-post market was New Co, and he's quite a big liability for the sponsors. This is the latest betting, and he's shortened again. He's now down to 5-2 on the course, New Co. And it's 6-1 Time for a Run, and 13-2 Beat the Second, representing Aiden O'Brien. 7-1 Lord Singapore and Whale of a Night. 8-1 is Wild Hyde, just receded a little bit today. 10 is Heist, and it's 12-1 Second Schedule and Tritherian. 14-1 Feathered Gale and Antonin. 16-1 Topical Tip. 20-1 Back Bar. 25-1 Ballyha Lad, Love and Porter and Dancing Vision. And 33-1 Borrowed Nuaf. Well, here is the 5-2 favourite, and what a big fine horse he is too. Bandaged today. They've had a fair bit of rain overnight at Leopardstown, but a versatile sort of horse. New Co, we've seen him at Cheltenham, of course, the mount of Conor O'Dwyer today, and trained by Mouse Morris. Would you give him a big chance, or would you prefer this one, Time for a Run?
Obviously so. I mean, both horses are looking big and well, look as if they've got a little bit of condition to work on there. Time, but as I say, both horses similar shapes in that they're both by deep run, just sweating up a little bit, but he does look a fine type of horse, doesn't he? Time for a Run.
Right, well, Tony Sweeney is the RTE betting expert, and he's coming up to date with news from the ring. As we've seen, strong support here for the 5-2 favourite, New Co. And let's just remind ourselves of the betting. New Co, the 5-2 favourite, 6-1 Time for a Run. Richard Dunwoody, after that earlier success on Merry Gale. 13-2 Beat the Second. 7-1 Lord Singapore and Whale of a Night. 8-1 Wild Hyde. 10-1 Heist. 12-1 Second Schedule and Tritherian. 14-1 Feathered Gale and Antonin. 16-1 Topical Tip. And it's 20-1 Back Bar, 25 Ballyha Lad, Love and Porter and Dancing Vision, and 33-1 Nuaf. Well, what do you think, Skier?
Yes, a competitive chase like this, 17 runners round here, it's quite tight around there, so, you know, jumping will be to the fore. The fences at Leopardstown, slightly different front on them too, that they're we are used to in England, but they take some jumping. The ditches, they call them the regulation there, aren't quite so fearsome and such big boards in front of them as again over here, but the fact that there's 17 runners, they're going to be going along at a decent pace, and you know, there's going to be no room for any mistakes.
Very valuable race, £80,000 race.
Yes, and you know, Tristan would be pleased to see a 17-runner handicap in this country. It must be good for the betting. I suppose, you know, you would have to say one of the sad points of the race is that a lot of these horses are getting a little bit long in the tooth now, and you know, horses like Second Schedule, Nuaf, and you'd wonder whether the young chasers are coming along from in Ireland.
Right, let's check on the top 6 in the betting. 5-2 New Co, 7-1 Beat the Second and Time for a Run and Lord Singapore, 8-1 Whale of a Night and Wild Hyde, 10-1 Bar. They're solid. Let's now join our colleagues for the Irish Television Service.
Troy Town, that was over this distance. Navan and Leopardstown are a little bit different. They're both left-handed. Navan has a very, very stiff climb to the finish. Leopardstown, you're climbing from the second last, but it's pretty gradual. And Heist might be a little bit better suited by a track like this rather than Navan. But I think Lord Singapore is a horse on the upgrade as well. Unfortunately, he was a casualty in the Irish National last year when he was well fancied, but he's done nothing wrong this season either. The runners filing out into the racecourse proper. Our favourite in the quartered colours, New Co. pale blue and claret coated. He's the 3-to-1 favourite. Time for a run on 6s. Lord Singapore and beat the second on 7s. Whale of a Night and Wild Hides 8s, and Heist 9-to-1 with 12-to-1 bar those. So here they are parading in front of the stands, and they're led by the top weight Feathered Gale. This is a restricted race, but it doesn't include handicaps. Feathered Gale was the winner of the Irish National last year, collected a very big prize, but he's still qualified for this one, but he's got 12 stone to carry. 10 stone in the Irish National, 12 stone in the Paddy Power handicap chase, with his chance, but neglected by the stable jockey Franny Woods. There he goes, being led out in front of Antonin, the likely front runner. That's where he's happiest. He's a 14-to-1 chance. He's the mount of Ken Whelan, trained by Sue Bramall. Sue, who'll be very familiar with English viewers, but she's very, very happily settled now in County Wexford, and making quite a name for herself as well. Horse is running well. Number 2, Antonin, followed by number 3, Singapore, up from County Cork, trained by John Joe Walsh, ridden by David Casey. Lord Singapore, a winner last time at Navan when beating Heist and Johnny Setaside. Behind him, we'll see Nuaf. There he is, Nuaf. Nuaf, this Abednego horse, trained by Pat Fahey in County Carlow. A horse who 2 seasons ago was probably at his absolute prime. He's never, ever looked like that since then. He definitely looks a little bit jaded. He's a 33-to-1 chance. That reflects his chance. Second schedule in the Hugh McMahon colours. The Russ with the green sash follows him. Number 5, a 12-to-1 chance. He came back to, well, not his best form, but he showed he was in good form with himself when beaten just a length by Son of War at Punchestown over 3 miles and 2 last time. Has his chance at 12-to-1. Behind him we see Wild Hide, Franny Woods' choice. Wild Hide, a dual Thyestes winner, an 8-to-1 chance at the moment, 4th best in the betting. And Ballyhigh Lad in the orange and black panel following him, the white face of Ballyhigh Lad. Aiden O'Brien's running here, unplaced behind Johnny Setaside at Fairyhouse at the end of last month, but before that, twice a winner, both times ridden by Charlie Swan when he beat Astrodimus at Listowel, and before that a winner at Goran. That was some time ago. There's Trifirian, another with his tongue tied down, Trifirian and Heist, both of them, trained by Victor Bowens. Brian Bowens, his son, in the saddle here. Trifirian unplaced behind Dargini over hurdles last time out, but beaten only 7 lengths by Opera Hat before that. Opera Hat, who runs in tomorrow's Ericsson chase with a big chance. Heist, a 9-to-1 chance here this afternoon. From County Wexford comes Love and Porter. Love and Porter and Doc O'Connor, 20-to-1. Just hasn't shown her best form this season, this mare by Share Grit. She was pulled up in her last race, won by Lord Singapore at Navan. That was the Troy Town. She was a faller in the race won by 3 Brownies at Punchestown, and in between those 2 runs she was a long way behind Royal Mount Brown at Clonmel. Whale of a Night, the 8-to-1 chance fancied by Ted, and I think a lot of people, it just surprised me, Ted, a little bit that Franny Woods didn't choose this one. He's gone for Wild Hide instead.
Well, after Fairyhouse, he was reported to be lame after Fairyhouse, so maybe he got held up in training or something, and Franny thinks he's at 100%, and maybe that's the reason why. Tony Sweeney down the ring. Any money for Whale of a Night?
You'll be glad to say that you've chose the right time to come over to me, Ted, because literally within the last 15 seconds I have seen money emerge for Whale of a Night, and the 8-to-1 has all gone pretty well everywhere. There's a scurry of the runners around the ring, and it's now a 7-to-1 chance. But also, while you were away from me, the favourite hardened again. Joe Donnelly took it on at 3-to-1. The others followed him. It didn't last very long, came to 11-to-4, and once again it's 5-to-2. But the latest mover, your horse, Whale of a Night, 8-to-7.
Topical tip, Tony Sweeney, when we get back to you again. Any money for him? I thought he had a couple of nice runs before Punchestown or Leopardstown of mine. I know how much John Mulhern likes to have him spot on the big day.
Yes, I haven't seen much for him indeed. He's a 12-to-1 chance. Has been around that sort of price, but 16-to-1, but there hasn't been any significant move for him. And but there's a great spread of money in the ring, and while the bookmakers say that there's very few 4-figure bets materialising, there's certainly a great public bet on the race, as you'd expect in a competitive handicap like this.
I think a brave man to have a couple of £1,000 in one on a 17-runner handicap chase around Leopardstown.
It'd only be someone like yourself, Ted, who'd do it.
Well, I think it'll take a brave man to take 5-to-2 about Newcote, particularly after what Mouse had to say to Tracy. He's the 5-2 favourite though. Time for a run on 6s. Then on 7-1 we have Lord Singapore and Whale of a Night and Beat the Second. Wild Hide 8-1 with Heist on 9s and still 12-1 bar those.
I think a lot of punters feel that Newco is so well handicapped when you look at him over runs. There's Beat the Second, the grey Beat the Second. This fella has his chance as well. There's Topical Tip. Topical Tip is a good each way chance, I suppose, off that 16-1 our last show. He's a winner at Leopardstown here, the previous Christmas meeting. Has his chance. I think he ran quite well in his two last previous runs. He's beaten a long ways, but knowing that John likes to have him just concert pitch here at Christmas, he's definitely got each way prospects. And some of the bookmakers are paying each way the first 5. So I'd be surprised if some of them horses that we fancied aren't definitely in the first 5. There's Beat the Second. I think Charlie Swan is elected to ride him instead of Ballyhar Lad. He won a handicap chase at Naas. He's off a handy enough mark at 9 stone 13, but he's only £7 behind Newco. Over hurdles, there'd be 2 stone between these horses. He's a good tough horse, jumps and stays. He'll love every inch of 3 miles, and he's got the assistance of Charlie on board, coming from the all-conquering Aiden O'Brien stable. Has to be respected. Tony Sweeney.
Well, there's a few quid also for that Beat the Second. It's been fluctuating between 6 and 7-1. But the favourite again on offer, right near the awful, 11-4, and that's shaping more and more like going to be its starting price.
So 11-4 Newco now, still 6-1 bar. That's time for a run.
Back bar, another one of Arthur Moore's runners, Shane Broderick on board. I suppose probably the outsider of the 4. He ran behind Son of War. Barry Cash rode him in the Cunningham Cup there. A lot of people thought that was his race. He just wasn't good enough on that occasion. He beat about 6 lengths. No match from Persian Halo at Naas before that, and pulled up behind Final Tub at Galway early on in the season. Always a bit of a question mark about him maybe getting 3 miles, even though he ran in the 4 mile chase at Cheltenham, but he's won a couple of chases of lesser distance. Tony O'Hare, they look like they're ready to roll.
Yes, they've been called in for the big one of the day, and they're off. Beat the Second, the grey on the inside, with the top weight Feathered Gale up there too, and also Topical Tip as they come to the first of the 17 fences. Feathered Gale jumps it just in front of Topical Tip. They're all safely over and running down now towards the second, the first of the ditches, and Topical Tip, Feathered Gale, Wild Hide up with them on the outside, and then Antonin, Nuaf moving through the field, blinkered for the first time today at the second, and Nuaf leads into it from Wild Hide in second. Again, all safely over and heading towards fence number 3. Wild Hide on the outside of Topical Tip and Nuaf. Wild Hide, Topical Tip, Nuaf in 3. Then Feathered Gale on the inside of Antonin, and they're followed by Back Bar, and then Ballyhar Lad, and behind Ballyhar Lad comes Beat the Second, and they're followed by Trifirian and Whale of a Night. At the 4th, Wild Hide from Topical Tip, got in a bit close, passed by Nuaf, then Antonin, and behind Antonin comes Feathered Gale, and they're followed by Ballyhar Lad and Back Bar, and then Beat the Second and Trifirian. They're followed by Whale of a Night, and then Time for a Run. They're followed by Lord Singapore. Coming out of the 5th, the second of the ditches, and Nuaf leads into it, jumps it well ahead of Wild Hide in second. They're followed in 3rd place by Topical Tip, and then Antonin. Feathered Gale is next, and behind Feathered Gale, Back Bar, then Ballyhar Lad, Trifirian, Beat the Second, and then Whale of a Night, and behind Whale of a Night is Time for a Run with Lord Singapore and Heist, and then Dancing Vision, Love and Porter, second schedule, and the favourite Newco brings up the rear as they jump fence number 6. And running on now towards the straight, Nuaf the leader, followed in second by Wild Hide with Topical Tip 3, Antonin just behind them in 4. Then Back Bar as they straighten up for the 7th. Nuaf in the lead from Wild Hide on the right of the picture. Then Topical Tip, the yellow and green colours of Antonin. And then Feathered Gale, Back Bar is next, tracked by the grey Beat the Second. They're followed over it by Triferian as they come up to past the stand, 7 fences behind them. Nuaf the leader from Wild Hyde and Antonin, and then Topical Tip and Feathered Gale, and they're followed by Backbar and Ballyhar Lad, and then Triferian, and behind Triferian is Beat the Second, and then Whale of a Night. Past the winning post for the first time, Nuaf the leader from Antonin in second, then Wild Hyde. They're followed by Topical Tip and then Feathered Gale and Backbar and Ballyhar Lad, and then Triferian and Beat the Second and Whale of a Night and Lord Singapore. Heist is next ahead of Time for a Run. Turning to face fence number 8. Nuaf from Antonin in second, then Wild Hyde towards the right in third place. They're followed by Topical Tip and Backbar, and behind these Feathered Gale, Beat the Second next on the inside. Ballyhar Lad towards the left in the orange colours. This is the 9th, Nuaf the leader. As they come to halfway, Nuaf over from Antonin in second, Wild Hyde is third. They're followed in fourth place by Backbar, then Ballyhar Lad, Topical Tip getting a couple of reminders, and then Feathered Gale. Going left-handed towards the back straight, Nuaf by 3 lengths to Antonin, Wild Hyde is third, then Backbar and Ballyhar Lad and Feathered Gale. They're followed by Time for a Run, who's made a bit of ground. Topical Tip has lost a few places. Coming to the 10th. Nuaf the leader from Antonin in second, then Wild Hyde, Backbar and Ballyhar Lad, and then comes Feathered Gale, followed by Time for a Run, and behind Time for a Run is Topical Tip, and then Triferian and Whale of a Night and Beat the Second, and then Yuko. Behind Yuko is Second Schedule, and then Dancing Vision, Lord Singapore, Love and Porter at the back with Heist. Fence number 11, a mile from home. Nuaf the leader, jumps it well from Antonin in second, and they're followed in third place by Wild Hyde, and we've lost one at that one. Triferian it is that's gone. Triferian a faller. As they come to the 12th, another ditch, and Nuaf from Antonin. Wild Hyde is third, Backbar, Ballyhar Lad, and then Feathered Gale. And they're followed by Time for a Run, Yuko, and Beat the Second, then Whale of a Night. Dancing Vision, Topical Tip dropping back through the field, and comes Second Schedule. Running towards the next fence, 5 from home. Nuaf the leader, over from Antonin in second place. In third place is Wild Hyde, Backbar is fourth. 5th place on the outside is Ballyhar Lad. Whale of a Night has made ground behind him. Then Time for a Run, Yuko making steady progress. Going now to the 4th last, and Nuaf the leader, over and met that one wrong but got away with it. Antonin's in second, and then Backbar, Wild Hyde, Ballyhar Lad, Whale of a Night tracks the leaders, then Time for a Run. Yuko improving on the outside, and they're followed by Dancing Vision making a bit of ground. Down now towards the 3rd last, and Antonin shows just ahead of Nuaf with just behind these Backbar and Ballyhar Lad, and Nuaf is gone there, hit it very hard and he's out of the race. And leaving Ballyhar Lad and Antonin in front. Yuko has moved up just behind them in third. Backbar, Wild Hyde. Time for a Run is in contention, and there on the outside is Dancing Vision as they come towards the 2nd last fence now. And it's Antonin the leader. Antonin from Yuko on the outside of Ballyhar Lad. Wild Hyde just behind them, and they're followed by Time for a Run and Backbar as they run the turn into the straight. 1 fence to jump in the Paddy Power handicap chase. Yuko left of the picture. The noseband Wild Hyde. Antonin is just behind them as they straighten up for the last. Wild Hyde, Yuko on the near side. Time for a Run in third. Then Antonin and Backbar, and they're followed by Dancing Vision as they come to the last. Yuko and Conor O'Dwyer from Wild Hyde and Francis Woods, they ride to the last. Yuko on the near side, Wild Hyde on the far side, and they race now up towards the last 150 yards. Wild Hyde and Yuko chased by Time for a Run in third, racing inside the last 100 yards. Yuko on the near side, Wild Hyde on the far side. They battle it out neck and neck. Yuko on the near side of Wild Hyde as they go to the line. Yuko's going to win the Paddy Power. Yuko the favourites home. Second is Wild Hyde, and they're cleared of Time for a Run 3. 4th place Backbar, 5 Antonin, and they're clear of Dancing Vision, Feathered Gale, then Beat the Second, followed in by Heist, and then came Second Schedule, Whale of a Night, Lord Singapore, Ballyhar Lad. Behind Ballyhar Lad was Topical Tip, and a long way back to Love and Porter, who's last. So a thrilling scrap there for the first prize of £44,050, and Yuko, the favourite, has done it, coming from the tail of the field to take the big one for Conor O'Dwyer and Mouse Morris. Francis Woods congratulating Conor O'Dwyer as Yuko returns the winner of the Paddy Power handicap chase
Hyde, but he's a good little cob. He's been well trained by Mouse, as it ran off his nice mark here for a big pot. Connor's given him a super ride all the way, hugged the inside, pulled him wide down to the second last for a bit of light, and he's come there absolutely running away. But Wild Hyde is a dour stayer. Time for Runners run a cracker back in third, and just as to pop this now, you'd expect him to sprint clear, but Mouse said he has reservations about him truly getting 3 miles, but he's a game, gutsy horse, got a nice ride off of Connor, hard as Franny Woods and Wild Hyde trying the inside. Connor just gets the upper hand here in the closing stages. I thought going to the last there was no doubt, but from here on in it's nip and tuck. Wild Hyde finds plenty under pressure from Franny Woods, but Newco finds that little bit extra off his nice mark and wins going away by about a length. Nice performance there from Newco, a good ride by Connor, equally good ride by Franny Woods and Wild Hyde, who jumped super and really ran a smashing race. I think Arthur's other horse, Whale of a Night, was travelling well when he nearly got brought down at the third last. But it was a good race, a good finish, and a nice result for the punters as well. Nice one from Mouse Morris. He's brought this horse along nicely. He was a real money spinner last year. He won a host of nice races around the country, over hurls. He won his last chase over fences at Navan. I saw him win a chase before that one day at Clonmel when he won nice and easily, but in between times he won over hurls. This is his 11th win from 40 runs and his biggest prize to date. He'd won 51,000 up to today, but he won £44,000 in first prize money today. He ran a real good race at Cheltenham in a handicap hurl as well there. And Connor is riding top of his form. Lovely rider over fences, Connor. Equally as good over hurls, but really at home over fences, a nice horseman. And he got this horse relaxed and jumping well, tucked around the inside. Things were getting tight around the third last and he had to move out to get a clear run, and he's come there cruising. Wild Hyde probably a little quicker away from the back of the last, and this fella had to just dig a bit deep, but he's a good game horse that did it well. Frank Berry just congratulating him there. Frank, who would be Connor's mentor. Connor would have been a young man when he would have went to Francis Flood under Frank. Learned plenty of the right skills there, and a good success here. Nice one from Mouse as well too. He's always a good man to produce one on the big day. The Ronan family, of course, great supporters of the game over the years. They used to have many good horses, all those horses, Darcy's, Thatcher and all them, with Michael Conce and Willie Brown, and then horses with Mouse, jumping horses. Jack Ronan, I'm sure you'll see him in a minute there. The senior members of the Ronan family are sadly deceased, the majority of them, but they have a great interest in the game over the years. Mrs. Ronan, I'm sure, is there as well today herself.
So the starting prices on the Paddy Power Handicap Chase. The winner, number 12, New Co, the 11-4 favourite. Second, number 6, Wild Hyde at 8-1. And third, number 14, Time for a Run at 6-1. The fourth horse was number 13, Back Bar at 20-1. Anna Musborough, the 205, the winner, number 1, Trump, the 6-5 favourite. Second, number 5, Darblay Street at 6-1. Third, If All Else Fails at 7-2, non-runner number 2, and only 5 ran. And the 2:15 at Southall. The winner, number 11, Reindeer Quest at 7-1. Second, number 6, Carol Again, 16-1. Third, number 5, Risky 2 at 10-1. The favourite there was number 8 at 7-2. Well, hot news from the press from the BHB. The Christmas Hurdle that should have been run at Kempton today will now be run at Sandown on January the 4th. And the Castleford Chase, which was abandoned at Wetherby, that will now be run at Uttoxeter on New Year's Day. Well, now an update on the casualties of tomorrow's racing. Sadly, Newbury has already been abandoned because of frost, as indeed has Folkestone. They're inspecting at Huntingdon in just a few minutes' time, but the prospects there look very remote. Newcastle, they're very hopeful. The going's good to soft there. And at Wolverhampton, the all-weather track, well, they say there are no problems. So, although we've lost our meeting at Newbury tomorrow, you can see 4 races again from the third day of this terrific Christmas meeting at Leopardstown, featuring at 2:05 the Leopardstown Christmas Hurdle, and at 2:40 the Ericsson Chase. So that's another great day's racing in Grandstand. And we've had a terrific day today. We've seen 3 favourites out of 4. We've seen Conor O'Dwyer riding a big double. It's been a great day. I'd like to thank Peter Scudamore for coming in, Tristan Ricketts for joining us, and I hope all of you have backed 1 or 2 of those winners and join us tomorrow. Goodbye.
day.